Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow underway on the Thursday edition. Glad you're with us, either on YouTube if you're watching live there through the OutKick channel or listening to this great radio partner. We say hello. Hope you'll subscribe to the channel if you're there, and if not, you can always check it out on demand, clips, live shows, and on-demand shows as well for all of the great programs across the network. Big show planned. Trey Wallace joins us on a busy news day. That's coming up in 20 minutes. A lot to discuss on college football and Colorado, Pac-12, Big 12, all of that. Armando Salguero, also of OutKick.com, coming up in hour number 2. Jalen Ramsey is carted off today on day 2 of practice for the Miami Dolphins. And Aaron Rodgers is taking a pay cut. We'll dive into the details in a moment. Plus, you've got Herbert, and then Burrow is next for the highest paid player in NFL history. Armando will bring it in about an hour and a half from now. And then A.J. Perez, a Front Office Sports, a friend of the show, who had the report yesterday as we were wrapping up things, and there was just rapid-fire headlines in college football, Chad, of the allegations against P.J. Fleck and the Minnesota football program for a toxic culture, specifically exercise for punishment, among other things. Fleck went off today on that report. AJ joins us with the very latest from Big Ten Media Days later in the show. Good afternoon.
Hutton, before we go scorched earth, a little personal experience today. Cars. Cars are something that we take for granted when they do what they're supposed to do, which is get us from A to B without any problems. And the moment they stop doing that, it's a huge headache. That has been my entire day up to this point.
You seem very chill and relaxed, though, considering the text that you sent this morning, which was,
I've gone from,
my car is going to be,
I've really hit all the peaks and valleys on this thing, because yesterday morning I'm driving down the road and I hitting the tire on this object and blowing my tire, or just blowing straight through that bad boy. And I blew straight through it. And I drugged this thing for about 30 yards, sparking behind me, ended up backing up in reverse, left the cylindrical object on the side of the road. No leaking, nothing I could see. Car drove fine. Drove here to work yesterday fine. Drove home last night fine. Get in the car this morning. I get the check engine light, the coolant, engine about to overheat. That's when I realized that I'd done something very bad to the undercarriage of my vehicle. And I spent the rest of the morning waiting on a tow truck to come to my house.
Which is never, it's such an uneasy feeling. You don't know when they're arriving.
The uneasy feeling was that the engine started going up a hill and my neighborhood started to die, and trying to turn that bad boy around and coast down the hill and through a roundabout in my neighborhood, up another hill into my driveway to make sure my car could be in my driveway. That was quite the hassle also. But Hutton, look, this show isn't about me. It's about the people, okay? We've got headlines to get to. I just want to say that I'm here, and I'm thrilled to be here in a loaner vehicle.
Chad's back.
I'm back, baby.
We're back with the headlines right now on this Thursday, which is jam-packed here. I mean, you can find these stories at OutKick.com. Colorado set to join the Big 12 in 2024. The Buffs are headed back to the conference where they once were. The Pac-12 is left scrambling, and so are the schools and programs involved with the Pac-12 currently. Colorado and the Big 12 presidents and chancellors, they met, unanimous vote yesterday evening to accept Colorado as a member of the conference starting in 24. Colorado, they have not formally applied to join the Big 12, but that vote is going to happen with the Board of Regents coming up in about an hour, I believe, is when that meeting is supposed to take place. And it's a foregone conclusion at this point. It is Colorado seeing the horizon and guaranteeing stability moving forward, because the Big 12 is going to be around. I have no clue about the Pac-12, Chad. And, the reports surfacing that member schools were hearing about the numbers for a new media deal within the conference, but Kliavkoff hasn't produced those numbers. And Colorado, the Big 12, got together. They've been talking, and now we wait on team number 2. But right now, Primetime's headed to the Big 12, and that is another great move for Brett Yormark.
You want to talk about peaks and valleys? I think it was just a week ago that George Kliavkoff was at his media days, and was asked questions about, hey, everybody thought this conference, there was doom and gloom and wasn't going to happen, and it was all happy talk, and we're on the precipice of this huge media deal that's right in line with ACC and Big 12 and everyone else. And I remember him, even at one quote I read was something about, we decided to take the high road. That's the better way to go at times. And everyone was writing about our demise. We took the high road, and look at us now. We're stronger together than ever. We have continuity. No one's straying. No one's looking around. And fast forward 1 week, and the Colorado Buffaloes leaving that conference. Once again, the headline is the Pac-12 is dead. And if not dead, there's a code blue coming with that conference, because no one knows what's going to happen next. What's the next shoe to fall for that conference? And this is Colorado, bird in hand versus two in the bush. They're saying they've got a media deal. They've got a commissioner that we like and trust, and Brett Yormark, big win for him. And we like this conference better and the future of this conference better than the one we're in currently. And, oh, by the way, we can't get a solid answer on what this media deal is and how much money it's going to be for the conferences. So instead of waiting around, we're out. Who's the next now? Who's the next school to pull the trigger on this?
Yeah, and we'll dive in on those options later in the show. The other thing to consider is Dion Sanders is now going to recruit Texas. He already has been. He's already recruiting Florida. But now the conference that they're joining a year from now, Big 12 now has 3 schools based on additions. Even with Texas and Oklahoma leaving, they can say, hey, come to Colorado, we're going to come back to your home state once or twice a year, guaranteed. Same with UCF, who's joining in Florida, where Primetime has a ton of connections with the state and the talent there. It's an intriguing move for a program that was once an afterthought, and now they're the center of attention.
Well, I think just those Texas schools alone, Colorado versus Baylor, Colorado, Houston, Colorado, Texas Tech, Colorado, Oklahoma State. Some of these games with Dion Sanders as the head coach, Dion Sanders versus Gundy now in conference, right? I mean, I immediately started thinking about conference matchups and how much more appealing it is to think about Dion Sanders in Colorado taking on Texas Tech as opposed to Dion Sanders in Colorado taking on Oregon State.
Right.
So, look, it's always made sense. It was a weird fit when Colorado and Utah joined the Pac-12 for both of those programs. This is the one that makes sense for Colorado. Even if there wasn't uncertainty around media deals for the Pac-12, this still would have made sense for Colorado, because I don't think they ever should have left.
The Angels aren't going to trade away Shohei Ohtani. That's according to the most recent report, where the Angels are looking at this thinking they're 4 games out. Mike Trout is scheduled to return to the lineup in mid-August, coming back from that wrist issue. And, Chad, this is either the biggest bluff to drive up prices, or this is also just we're in the playoff race excuse. They're going to add that into the mix for fans that want to come see Shohei Ohtani finish out the season with butts in seats in the stadium, and as he chases Judge's AL home run record. It's either they legitimately buy into the fact that they have a chance to bring him back, because otherwise I don't know why you go ahead and get this out there on the 27th of July with the deadline at August 1st. I know they're they've acquired other players. They think Trout's coming back on time, but here's Ohtani, the best player in the world, and will drive a market of upwards of $600 million according to reports. And it doesn't feel like he's staying with the Angels. He's going to have all suitors. And right now the Angels would have all suitors to acquire him. They're turning that option away.
The Angels went from selling Ohtani and trying to get a haul of prospects or draft picks or a combination of both, to at the same time they're working out the biggest trade so far to land Lucas Giolito from the White Sox as a starting pitcher. So they go from sellers to buyers, but seemingly in an instant. We're going to keep Ohtani. They're 4.5 games out of the 3rd wild card spot in the AL. If the Angels do not reach the playoffs, this is not hyperbole. This is one of the dumbest moves in the history of sport to continue to stick this out with two guys who are superstars. But you have shown as an organization with those two superstars, you can't even get to the playoffs. Now, we can talk about what a first-round playoff exit would mean for the Angels if that day comes. But if this team gambles this way, does not get what they would have got in return, the future of their franchise with top prospects from all of baseball. The Baltimore Orioles were one team that reached out. The Baltimore Orioles have 7 of the top 25 infield prospects in baseball. They don't have enough Major League Baseball spots for all of the top prospects they possess right now. They could have completely revamped their entire organization.
You know how they did that?
With those guys.
They traded away their stars.
Yes.
Machado and others.
Absolutely.
And got those prospects in return.
Absolutely. And now they had a chance to finally go for it.
Right. Yeah.
Where they could give that up and go get Ohtani as the team right now with the best record in the American League. They didn't do it. But they're doing all this to what? Make the playoffs or go win a World Series?
Well, but
the thing is, if you get in the playoffs, you could win the World Series, right?
I'm trying to think of the line.
But what if they don't make it?
Well, then they're losing him either way. But if you think you have to prove to Ohtani you're trying to win, because that's something he said publicly at the All-Star break, then you have to, if you want even an opportunity to keep him, you have to go for it in this way and spin it this way, being 4 games out of that third and final wild card spot. Again, what we've seen tells us they're not making the postseason. But if they think they have a glimmer of hope to keep him, this is the way to go about it.
If they don't make the playoffs and they don't sign Ohtani after this season, this will be looked back on as one of the worst tenures and decisions in the history of pro sports. We will look back and say, 2 surefire Hall of Famers in Trout and Ohtani never made the playoffs together. And they went for it in the final year, 4.5 games out of a playoff spot, and did not even make the playoffs. Now, once they get to the playoffs, anything could happen. But they better get there. At least one of the two needs to happen. Either get to the playoffs or re-sign Ohtani. If neither happens, man, oh man, do the Angels look really dumb.
And in the meantime,
really dumb.
If he goes for the Judge record, they're in the mix. That would correlate and translate too. Chad, Aaron Rodgers taking a $35 million pay cut in a restructure and a new contract for him in New York. When the Jets made this trade, based on the money that was allocated in the contract they acquired, if it was going to be a one-and-done type season for Rodgers, it was going to have to be reworked. And he was scheduled to make $107 million next year on what was a $110 million contract that was remaining on the contract that Green Bay had left on originally a 4-year deal. Right now, technically, it's a 5-year contract with a couple of option years, the voidable years, if so. It's technically a 2-year, $75 million deal. And he has a $35 million bank deposit that's coming his way this week based on this. $35 million roster bonus. His salary this year is going to be $1.8 million. Next year's salary is $38.2. But he takes this and then it explains to reporters he did it because this is more than just a one-time, 1 year in New York trying to win a Super Bowl. He wants to give the team money to work with both this year and next year. And the cap's going up next year, so that's when they take the brunt of the money from the Jets front office perspective. And from my perspective, I'm looking at this, not just he's taking the cut, which we've never seen this amount before. Chad, he's optically, he's already the leader of that locker room. But when you have the superstar status of Rodgers and a young team that's looking up to him to be the reason why they're winning a Super Bowl, not just talking about one in October, this goes a long way in doing everything possible to where now the guys say, yeah, we absolutely 100% trust this guy. He's in it with us.
He is the king of New York, and this is just another reminder that Aaron Rodgers is a very smart dude. He knows how to play things. He knows how to work things psychologically. What a diss to the Packers organization. That ever since they crossed him, he never would have considered doing something like this to help them out. But now in year one, with a chance to rejuvenate his career and a chance to win a second Super Bowl, suddenly he's Mr. Team. He is the guy, the man of the people. He is sacrificing his own salary in order for the team to get better and go at a Super Bowl. So, brilliant move for Aaron Rodgers to endear himself not just to Jets fans, but to that entire locker room. Oh, by the way, Shohei Ohtani currently pitching a one-hitter right now. They lead 6-0 in the 8th inning. He's got a one-hitter going for a complete game the next day after they decide to keep him.
So maybe they're 3 games out after today.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a motivation of, hey, this team really is serious about winning now.
Chad, later in the show, Rodgers took a pay cut. Mbappe's doing that too. He's turning down the option to even meet with the Saudis about taking the $1.1 billion offer, where $776 million would have been in his bank account after 1 year. And instead, he's opened himself up to more of what is a free agent acquisition for Real Madrid, Manchester United, and others who are going to be after him. But he follows the messy path. He's not taking the boatload of money, which would have paid him upwards of $52 million a month. And instead, he's going to continue to take calls and figure out where he really wants to play. Details coming up. Trey Wallace joins us next on College Football.
Jason Aldean's new song. Jason Aldean's new song, Don't Try It in a Small, Try That in a Small Town, is awesome. It's basically saying to you Antifa clowns out there and you rioters, look, you can go ahead and burn down Democratic-run cities. And the cops, at least in Indianapolis, will be told by an alleged drunken mayor to stand down. That's fine. But don't try that in a small town. You saw what happened in Crown Point, Indiana. Crown Point, Indiana, there was rumored that a group was coming in to tear it up. Crown Point's just a little south of Gary. And all the fellas got their shotguns out and lined the streets. Do you know how much trouble there was in Crown Point, Indiana? Bam. 0. Zip. Nada. Liberals went nuts. Oh, this is racism. No, not really. Hey, there's white Antifa. There's black Antifa. You're just protecting your streets. You're just protecting the businesses that you use. See, here in Indy, we did not protect the businesses that we use. We let idiots run wild. We let idiots burn. We let idiots break. We let idiots destroy. That's not the way to go about it. You try that in a small town. Here's what happened in Ottawa Lakes, Michigan, where my wife's from. There was a rumor, group was coming up from both Toledo and Cincinnati. And they were going to go into this gun store and loot it. Word got out. Neighborhood app got started. You know what happened? The fellas, I think it was Ottawa Lakes. There's another town right there. It could be a different town. I don't know. They're all there. You know what happened? The fellas surrounded and protected the gun store. You know the rest of the story, right? The Antifa pussies came up, looked around, saw they were being challenged, and like every single group of bullies, turned around and left. Damn right. That's a small town. And if you think Don't Try It in a Small Town, country music, television or whatever is racist, tough. Good for you. We don't. It's #1 on the charts. And I put out a tweet earlier today of an African-American guy, big, strong guy, that said, hey, don't be coming down here to Alabama. African-American guy. I'll retweet it. Said, don't even think about coming down here and starting that crap. Don't even think about it. Well, guess what? He ain't wrong. It ain't about black or white. It's about protecting the businesses that you use against people that are trying to destroy your town. And Jason Aldean ain't wrong, baby. And you liberals can bitch and whine and moan and write your articles and try to cancel him or cancel me for standing up for it or get mad at OutKick. I don't care. I love seeing what happened in Ottawa Lakes. You want to come in here? Ain't happening. It just ain't happening. Crown Point, Indiana, everybody called them racist because it was white guys with shotguns. You know what they did? They protected their town. I wish we'd have protected our town here in Indy. You go into Indy, it is awful, horrendous, horrific. Nothing going on downtown for the most part.
A lot to discuss across college football. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. Trey Wallace joins us.
We'll
from
have to tell a story of how we
OutKick.com.
almost had Julia Roberts on the show at some point.
or
was
reached out.
about to be a guest in the show, but I
It
derailed
was a text that didn't go through. Trey's thinking that we just turned her away because she walked by here.
Because the text did
Hey,
not
Julia.
go through where I was, really confused our crew on who I was requesting to join the show.
Yeah, it was.
So y'all almost had Julia Roberts. Why don't you just bump
sure.
me? Goodness
Sure.
gracious!
Yeah, we almost had Julia Roberts. Yep, that's the story we're going with.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I love Notting Hill. Good movie.
Trey, we've got the Big 12 in Colorado, the future of the Pac-12, and what happens there. Who's the next team that the Big 12 would be pursuing to even things out with, Oregon, Arizona, Utah, and we've already known that they've reached out to UConn. That was reported back in June. What do you make of all of this and the timing for the Pac-12 presidents, the Pac-12 decision makers waiting on the conference and leadership to just show them the numbers of what has been put out there as, hey, we're going to be on par with our new media deal with the Big 12 and the ACC. That's been said, but there's been no details behind it, and Colorado chooses to leave.
Jonathan, I think it comes down to it's Colorado just finally called their bluff. I mean, guys, we've been talking about for a year now that we're waiting on this Pac-12 media deal. They're going to get it figured out. George Kilikoff is going to make this announcement. But the biggest thing is, we kept hearing from presidents and chancellors from other schools saying it's imminent. It's coming. We hope to announce within the next 3 weeks. That was something that went down a month and a half ago. And then we get to Pac-12 Media Days last Friday. And, it's a one-day event. You got him sitting up there, and he's talking about how all the teams are working together in regards to the future, and they're sticking together. And then not 3 days later, Colorado is making a move to the Big 12, which, tells me, in talking with folks now about all this, is that, Colorado's intentions were to get to the Big 12 and get out of the Pac-12. And look, when you're sitting there at a time where there's instability, and there is so much instability in the Pac-12 right now, with USC and UCLA being their last season in the conference, they're going to move on. Okay, so what does the television rights deal look like without them? Okay, now you add on to the fact that Colorado's moving on. And I want to phrase this too. Colorado's not some kind of world beater in football. They've got a coach now that has drawn life to Boulder, and it makes them a team that you want to watch. It's not like their basketball program is, top notch every year. Other sports, okay, that's fine. But I think overall right now, the Big 12 adding a team like Colorado is the next domino that falls, because there's going to be more. The Big 12 is wanting to go out and find a basketball powerhouse, another basketball powerhouse to come in, hang out with Houston and others that have been around the program, been around the conference. So do you go grab UConn? You try to persuade them to come to the Big 12, and that could be your basketball side of things here, because we know football-wise, it is what it is. Or do you go out and you try to add Arizona? Because you get Arizona, you get basketball, and you get football, add in some softball as well, other sports, but not to take away from that. But there's a couple different options on the table right now. And the four pillars discussion, I remember having this talk with you guys, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. We were talking about the 4 pillars. That's the 2 Arizona schools, Arizona State. And then do you go out and grab Utah? And then because you've already got Colorado. So how does it play out now? And what does the Big 12 want to do? The Pac-12 is scrambling right now. They're having a meeting that's about to start here in about 5 minutes with their president, CEOs, chancellors, and whatnot, trying to figure out what the next move is. Oregon's got an athletic meeting starting here in about an hour and a half to discuss Dan Lanning's contract, but also to discuss some things that are going on in the conference. And, you know, it's just full-blown panic mode right now. And without a television deal for the Pac-12 guys, they just look like a dead conference walking, and there's no way to get around it anymore.
Why do you think the Big 12 is staying patient and not adding the second team as a part of a bundle, which we've seen in the last 2 years? Because if it was Arizona, it would make sense that Arizona would have been a part of this deal right now.
I think it comes down to Brett Yormark wanting to. Brett Yormark, the commissioner of the Big 12, has been going after Colorado now for months and months, trying to persuade them to get in. I think this was like the first team, meaning I don't think we're going to have to wait long before a second team along with Colorado joins. I just think Colorado was his first goal. You know, there have been talks, he was looking at the Memphis pro basketball program, and he was touring that campus, I don't know, a month and a half ago, and he's talked with other schools as well. Arizona's been in conversations with the Big 12, quietly. But I'm just saying right now, I think Brett Yormark saw Colorado. Okay, if we get Colorado, we get them nailed down, there's going to be another team that's going to join. And then you look at it overall, so you're sitting at 13 teams right now. They would like to get that number to 16, I am told. So if they can somehow get that number to 16 by the time the 2024-2025 season of that year starts, then that's going to add more pressure and give them a little bit more leeway with Fox and ESPN for additional revenue under that contract. So I feel like this was the first step, and then not long after here, there's going to be another team that's added, maybe potentially 2 to 3.
Yeah, and I just found it interesting, Chad and Trey, that Pete Thamel, who broke this story, it was put in there as, I felt like it was his opinion, but he also threw it in towards the end of his report. It was thorough, and a write-up there at ESPN. He said, well, Yormark could also be waiting to see how everything shakes out with the ACC. That's intriguing because that would mean he's got a specific team that isn't looking for the SEC or the Big Ten. They're looking for a lifeboat that would also provide stability, just like Colorado received, Chad.
Well, it's crazy to go back now. By the way, I'm more of an Aaron Brockovich guy myself, Trey. But going back in time, right, 25 months ago, I think that's the time frame when Texas and Oklahoma announced they were leaving. That is when the planet believed the Big 12 was dead. And the Pac-12 had a bit more of a position of power at that point because they weren't in the news for having their 2 biggest programs leave at the time. Now, later on, UCLA, USC, and now we're here, right? Well, the Big 12 went to the Pac-12, open arms, and said, let's join forces. We'll be our own super conference. They rebuked them, said, nope, go back. We have no interest. And from that moment on, Trey, was it always inevitable that only one would survive? And that the Big 12 took it upon themselves to show everyone who was boss? And from that point on, 25 months later, the raid has begun. And now will be the Big 12 left standing and not the Pac-12. And because the Pac-12 said no to a possible super conference blending the two, now they might die.
So I was talking with 2 people inside the Big 12 this morning, and my takeaway was this, and it goes along with what you were talking about here. When they decided to get rid of the alliance or not do the alliance thing and join forces and whatnot, Big 12 made it a purpose to go out and say, okay, you guys are about to get screwed. You guys are about to lose USC and UCLA. We're about to go out here and we're going to raid you as much as possible. Or we're going to add teams that are going to add the value to us because you decided not to. So what do? You go out and add UCF, Cincinnati, BYU. You're getting Houston. I'm just saying, so what they did was smart. And Brett Yormark, you have to remember, Brett Yormark, the commissioner, Oldesby was there before. Brett Yormark comes in now in the last year, and he decided, okay, screw it. If the Pac-12 wants to sit out on the West Coast and just filter away and die with what's going on, and they can't get a television deal, and they're struggling with the teams that they have, and the teams that are in the conference are pissed off that they're still in the conference because Oregon and Washington couldn't make that move to the Big Ten immediately. So it was a perfect opportunity for the Big 12 to go out and try to start rating them. And they set this thing up themselves, man. The Pac-12 has been so out there when it comes to statements, when it comes to timelines, when it comes to the overall health of their conference, while the Big 12 is like, well, wait a minute. We want to be up there with the third best conference in the country. We want to be in the running with the ACC, behind the Big Ten, the SEC, in terms of revenue, in terms of competition in our league, in terms of actually who we have in our league. I mean, look at the coaches in the Big 12 now. It's a nice stable. So you look at it overall, and it was finally a moment where you said, okay, I have no sympathy for the Pac-12 anymore. We're going to go take these teams. They're going to come over here, and we're going to make our conference as big as and baddest as we can. And by the way, we've got a television deal, that a new one that's going to start in 2024, 25, that sets us up for the future. And now they can even go back to them and say, hey, you want to put in an additional $2 to $3 million into this? So it was the smart move, the right move. And I think the Big 12 took it personally, because at the end of the day, looking back on it right now, that sure felt like a lifeline to the Pac-12 by saying, hey, why don't we join up and we could be this big bad conference? They turned them down. Big 12's like, screw you. We're going to go make ourselves better. It played out for Brett Yormark and the Big 12, and now the Pac-12 scrambling to stay relevant. And they're not really relevant, guys. Like, it's Oregon and Washington. Let's be honest with each other here. Besides the basketball part with Arizona and whatnot, and you could throw in Stanford if you want to. I know there's Cal, a few other teams, Oregon State, which is a name. You know, like we know Oregon State. We watch the Beavers play. But there's a lot of schools right now that are panicking, and I don't blame them one bit. And I think the leadership of George Kilikoff has turned this thing into a disaster for that conference.
Trey Wallace with us, OutKick.com is where you can find his college football columns and reports. What did you make of the Oregon discussion yesterday evening? Jeff Schwartz and others threw out the Ducks for the Big 12 with some assurance that the Big 10 is going to be there. You would think they would stay and wait on that to happen. But if there's no assurance, Trey, if you're Oregon, what do? Because Oregon now is looking at Florida State and Clemson over at the ACC, and who's left that has their value? No one.
They don't, you know, they're I guess you could say that they are the pillar now when it comes to the Pac-12. I mean, I know Washington's in there with Michael Penix Jr. this year, and I get that. Washington's a program that we all pay attention to.
And they'll be good, yeah.
Right. But Oregon, overall, you're sitting there and you're like, well, wait a minute. If I can figure out a way, if the Big Ten is not going to expand at the moment, and they don't feel like expanding over the next 3 years, and they feel fine. Because in my opinion, in talking with some folks, if the Big Ten really, really wanted to, they go out and poach Oregon right now, and even Washington. But it feels like the Big Ten is feeling pretty safe at the moment. They're going to get USC and UCLA in the conference, feel kind of stable. So if Oregon, they're sitting there like, oh, wait a minute, we don't like this situation. We're okay. We're number one in the conference, but look at the rest of the competition in the conference. You know, it's not really something that we can beat our chest about. Okay, well, why not go join the Big 12 and hop into that conversation? Where the Big 12 would then, you got the West Coast of the Northwest, you've got Florida, you got some of the East Coast in there, you got Middle America in there. Like, you're hitting different points when it comes to television networks and eyeballs and whatnot. And Oregon's sitting there too, like, well, wait a minute. We could get into a better conference when it comes to competition and also financially. Guys, we still don't know what this darn media deal is going to look like. And after talking with some folks in the Pac-12 conference over the last 5 or 6 days, they're nervous because they feel like they're going to sit here with some, you know, offer that might be, okay, money-wise it's okay, but actually what networks are we on? That's the biggest thing. The money can be fine. But if you're put on a streaming service or you're put on the CW or whatnot along those lines, that's not really viable for what you're trying to do as a powerhouse program. So I don't disagree. I think Jeff Schwartz and them are kind of on that right path. If Oregon wants to make a move and they can't sit around and wait for the Big Ten, why not the Big 12?
Trey Wallace is going to be following all the news that comes out of the meetings that are happening today. Foregone conclusion that Colorado will be joining the Big 12, but what comes of that meeting that will take place with the Pac-12. Trey, thank you as always, man, and we always love the college football talk. We're now less than a month away from the kickoff of the college football season.
Fall camp starts this week in y'all's town and next week all across the country. So a lot of stuff coming, and be looking out probably around 5:30 tonight. We'll have the final report on Colorado joining and applying for the Big 12. So I appreciate you guys, and good luck with Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
Thank you, Trey.
Yeah, she left.
We appreciate that.
Got tired of waiting.
Yeah. we had to move her to tomorrow, so she said, no, get back with my publicist. Maybe next year you can do it.
Coming up, we'll in about 25 minutes or so, there's a real-life Kenny Powers that used to be a Division I football coach, a Power 5 football coach. We'll tell you who that is. And, well, there's a really good football coach now for the Denver Broncos. And he went scorched earth for a second consecutive day. Today it was about the Broncos' former head coach and the worst job ever performed by a coach in the NFL.
Two biggest social media giants, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, are set to battle it out, and I'm here on Broadway asking people who they put their money on. Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk? They're going to fight each other. Who do you think's going to win?
I think Mark's got him.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Because he's a man.
Okay, and Elon Musk isn't?
Oh, well, of course, he's got money.
Okay.
He's got money. Money, well, you know, money's money.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg in a fight?
I don't know. I'm going to go with Musk.
Why?
It just seems like he's a little bit younger, a little bit smarter.
You just got a good feeling about him?
I got a good feeling.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Musk.
Why?
He trains. That guy's going to beat his.
But Mark Zuckerberg is actually training jiu-jitsu for 9 months.
Not happening. Elon Musk all day. Elon Musk.
Why do you think?
He has no soul. I mean, I think he's definitely just going to no holds barred.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. I feel like he's stronger and smarter.
Oh, Elon Musk.
All the way? Why?
All the way. He's an animal. Think about it.
Mark Zuckerberg's been training for 9 months jiu-jitsu. You think Elon Musk can take him?
Yeah, I think he could take him.
Elon, that oh God, stop playing with Elon. Elon really do this out here, for real.
I hope Elon
Really? Why do you think so?
got better ideas.
Zuckerberg's like 5'7", 155. Musk is 6'1", 190. But Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, who's going to win in a fight?
Oh, Elon Musk. No doubt.
Why do you think so?
He's the GOAT. I've been seeing all the Twitter handles and all the talk, and I'm on Elon Musk's side. I'm ready for them to get in the WWE ring and then come off the top rope. That's what I want to see. I want to see a people's elbow to Mark Zuckerberg.
If one was more likely to be a lizard or a robot, who would it be?
Elon. Elon.
Okay.
I think Mark Zuckerberg will win.
Why do you think that?
Because I think he already trains MMA. So he's got like the prior experience and stuff. I mean, they're both billionaires, so they have the opportunity to get the best training. But I think Mark Zuckerberg will pull away with the win.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think so?
Because he's bigger.
Bigger, okay, but Mark Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Do you think that matters?
No.
Zuckerberg, he's part alien or robot, so he may have some secret powers that we don't know about.
I was going to say, is that an advantage? Does he have an advantage over Elon Musk then?
Yeah, I mean, if he, sheds his skin and becomes an alien and eats everyone, yeah, I think so.
Elon Musk is mental, so Elon Musk.
All it is just he's mental. He's mentally crazy, so.
He just wouldn't care, would he?
Okay.
He'd just absolutely go for it. I think Zuckerberg would be a bit more refrained.
Okay.
If that should ever happen, which I doubt, but you never know, it'd be entertaining.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Elon Musk.
Why?
Because my dad is in love with Elon Musk.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have to go with Zuckerberg. I mean, Threads just came out, so.
Who do you think would win?
Zuck.
Why do you think so?
Because he's not a real human. He's a robot.
So he'll use that to his advantage.
Yeah, and all the Krav Maga stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think would win in a fight, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk?
Elon Musk.
Why do you think Elon Musk?
I think Elon's
He
smarter.
works with robots, so maybe he built a robot to fight for him.
But what if Mark Zuckerberg is a robot?
Oh, wow.
Then I might have to change my answer.
Who do you think is going to win?
Me.
I'm glad you're with us for Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. We broadcast live each and every day across the OutKick network and live in studio. 6th and Peabody is where we're located with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Chad, a lot to get to today. We've got Armando Salguero coming up shortly on the very latest across the NFL. Jalen Ramsey's injury in Miami. Aaron Rodgers taking a pay cut. Meanwhile, Burrow is about to become the highest paid player in NFL history following Justin Herbert's contract. And A.J. Perez from Front Office Sports joins us. He's been at Big Ten Media Days, and he had the report about the toxic culture within the Minnesota football team, and specifically P.J. Fleck. And P.J. Fleck had comments earlier today. So
P.J. Fleck just flat out said every single offseason with players we've dismissed from this program, they go public. They go to some media outlet and try to trash us. All the ones we kicked off. Well, we'll have to ask A.J. Perez if those were his sources. How many of the players were kicked off? Kidding. He won't reveal his sources, even if we asked.
Sean Payton obliterated Nathaniel Hackett's coaching job last year as the Denver Broncos head coach that, lasted 9 weeks, 10 weeks? It was short and sweet. Now he's the offensive coordinator of the Jets.
It was a memorable short stint.
Memorable for all the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Right?
They had to bring in a decision maker. Remember they had what was his? It was consultant. It wasn't consultant. It was like a head coach liaison.
Yeah, he was like the spotter / what you should do on certain downs.
Like the obvious, hey, you should punt here or go for this 4th and 1.
Yeah,
you have 2 timeouts left, coach.
Yeah, and there are other teams. A lot of teams have that guy, but they had to do it after the fact
and publicly.
Yeah, it was a former Baltimore Ravens guy, I think, that did it. But in an interview with Jarrett Bell, longtime NFL writer for USA Today, he went into detail about the issues last year. It was a 5-win team in Denver. Russell Wilson got the big contract and the trade, and nothing went right for him. He did not look the same as he had the previous 9 seasons in Seattle, 10 seasons in Seattle. And here's Sean Payton, Chad, just reading the quotes here, discussing that with Jarrett Bell. Everybody's got a little stink on their hands. It's not just Russell. It was a poor offensive line. It might have been one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL. That's how bad it was. And he went into further detail, but it's like he said something about Wilson didn't just flip, meaning he didn't go from being a good quarterback to an awful one. And he put it all on Hackett and his coaching job. Quote, there's so much dirt around that. There's 20 hands for what was allowed, tolerated in the frickin' training rooms, the meeting rooms. The offense, I don't know Hackett. A lot of people had dirt on their hands. It wasn't just Russell. He didn't just flip. He still has it. This BS that he hit a wall, shoot, they couldn't get a play in. They were 29th in the league in pre-snap penalties on both sides of the ball. And then ripped Hackett again further about not allowing Wilson's personal quarterback coach to be with him or have access to the building. Heard that before in Foxborough with the trainer for TB12 with Tom Brady. Quote, that wasn't Wilson's fault. That was the parents who allowed it. It's not an incrimination on him, but an incrimination on the head coach, the GM, the president, everybody else who watched it all happen. everything I heard about last season, we're doing the opposite. That was Sean Payton. Props.
Bravo, Sean Payton. You are the antidote to the tired, stale NFL mantra of just completely saying words that mean nothing and never showing any personality. This is the breath of fresh air. I thought it was going to be Mike McDaniel. He's got a good personality, but he's not saying this. He's not going scorched earth and lighting just an entire organization, all leadership at every level, all the players, lighting them all ablaze. This is amazing. I applaud you. Thank you for the honesty. You said what we all knew, that Nathaniel Hackett got the most out of being a good ping pong partner of Aaron Rodgers than any coach in history. Because I don't know how anyone could be that bad in that short of amount of time. And I've watched that and I think, how could anyone interview this person and believe that they are the man for the job? Great job fooling everyone, Nathaniel Hackett. Great job in those battles of ping pong with Aaron Rodgers to get his respect during that time. But man, oh man, was it a disaster, his tenure there. And props to Sean Payton for saying it and not being afraid of how people are going to react to it and whose feelings are going to get hurt by it. He just doesn't care.
He talked about the talent on his team that he's inherited. He says, I'm going to be pissed if this is not a playoff team. And he goes into detail about it doesn't happen often where NFL organizations get embarrassed, and that's what happened here. Part of it was their own fault relative to spending so much bleeping time trying to win the offseason, the PR, the pomp and circumstance, marching people around and all this stuff. I mean, it goes on and on.
My favorite line was, everything they did before, we're doing the opposite.
We're doing the opposite.
We're going to do the
Everything
exact
I've heard
opposite.
they did, we're doing the opposite.
I'm asking people that knew, what did you do in this situation? How did you handle this? And my response is always, we're going to do the exact opposite of that.
Nathaniel Hackett right now is definitely among the names that come to mind for worst coaching job, for the length of how long he lasted as a first-time head coach, but also just how inept the game management was. He was not ready.
Yeah, Urban Meyer as a contemporary is right there with him.
Urban Meyer, I would say Bobby Petrino in Atlanta, Ken Wisenhunt with Tennessee definitely comes to mind.
Nathaniel Hackett had more talent, more expectations than an Urban Meyer. I think Urban Meyer publicly probably had more wrong, but he didn't have the expectations that the Broncos had when they traded for Russell Wilson.
Yeah, but he was going to be the savior that got them back with Trevor Lawrence. And they had a young roster. And then you see what Peterson did last year with that group, who he came in and just treated the players the opposite way, going back to what Sean Payton's saying he's doing. They said Payton's bringing more discipline and focus to that. So what happens with the Broncos this year? Again, we know about the division. Beyond that, though, I think this also is he's being blunt, but what it also does is it takes away any attention right now on Russell Wilson.
Well, and I think it's twofold. He's a smart guy. I think it takes the attention off of Russell Wilson. It helps him out because he knows he's got to get some good things out of Russell Wilson if he's going to be a success. It also puts the onus back on the players to change their mental state of who they should be and who they are. Because a year ago, this was seen as the Broncos are going for broke. They are going for a Super Bowl. They've got Russell Wilson now. They've got the young receiving options. They've got a good defense. They're going to go try to win a Super Bowl. And then disaster struck. So this is Sean Payton psychologically trying to return them to a year ago and what they thought when the Russell Wilson trade happened. And to erase last year, write it off on the idiot former head coach and everyone around him, and also say, you guys were disappointing. You guys were bad. I'm going to be pissed if we're not a playoff team because you are a playoff team. Psychologically, I think that has a huge bearing on a team when you say things publicly like this. And that's the message he's trying to get across.
Psychologically, whatever Deshaun Watson told his Browns teammates behind the scenes, he says, won over the locker room. And it was the story that he says the media isn't focusing on enough because last year they were writing a narrative about everything off the field, which included him settling out of court for the lawsuits involving over 20 women and assaulting them during massages. But the quote he gave the Browns media corps recently, when I was a young kid, I didn't think of the NFL. I didn't know how I was going to make it out of high school, not having a father figure in my life ever. In 27 years, I've probably seen him 4 times. Those are things that people don't really get to hear about, especially last year. It's been the media directing a narrative of something else. My upbringing has been kind of overshadowed. That from Deshaun Watson. Chad, we got into this on Tuesday, and you had the great point that was, I know John McClain, who covered Watson in Houston for years, agreed with. There's plenty of seasons with Deshaun Watson being a top 5 NFL quarterback for a bad football team where this wasn't an issue for him. He wasn't complaining about this not being a narrative behind the scenes. And now because the reporters doing their jobs, asking him questions and asking the Browns questions about why they signed him to a fully guaranteed deal that we haven't seen for the best quarterbacks in the league since, and based on what happened off the field and why he didn't play and why he had a 11-game suspension, that's not a narrative. Those are facts as to what happened. And I mean, if you want to, the narrative would be on his end trying to flip the conversation instead of just focusing on ball. At this point, he's back in the league. Browns fans are going to pack the stadium. They're going to be cheering for the Browns to win, even with Watson as their QB. Why not just focus on football instead of trying to play the victim card on how things are at least portrayed constantly, because you haven't addressed those things enough publicly in an honest manner, other than just saying, yeah, we have an ongoing legal battle, or, you know, I still don't feel like I've done anything wrong, but I've settled out of court. I still maintain my innocence.
There would have been nothing wrong with this if he didn't have that one line about the media forced a certain narrative. So the media was forced this narrative. Everything else he said is fine. If you wanted to say, sure, look, I came into a situation where I knew what everyone was talking about. I knew what the story was about me, and I just wanted to tell my teammates a different story. Hey, this is who I was growing up. These are the challenges I faced, and that connected me with my teammates. There would have been nothing wrong with that. There wouldn't have been a headline made. People would have shrugged and said, okay, great. You know, that's how you endeared yourself to your teammates. Fine. But when you say but the media wanted to force a certain narrative, it does make Deshaun Watson look like he's playing victim in all of this. And there are other victims in his story, and it's not him. And that you can't omit that part. And it just, we talked the last few days about a shocking lack of self-awareness with a lot of people and hypocrisy and how they view things and all of that. Those words from Deshaun Watson shows me a shocking lack of self-awareness. And we did talk about it with John McClain. Everyone covered Deshaun Watson as a great guy for years and years. I've never read a bad word
Clemson
about Deshaun Watson until this whole thing happened.
You're
so you want the puff pieces to start now? I don't know. The media is forcing this, but what you need to be focused on is my upbringing. We need to get those pieces out there now. We need to get people talking about that and writing about that again and not focused on all of this. I mean, come on, man. Don't play the victim here. If you just would have left out the part about the media narrative was one thing, I don't think there would have been anything wrong with anything he said about what he talked to his teammates about. Nothing.
Yeah, let your quarterback play, do the talking.
Yep.
And that will be what is reported on moving forward, not the upbringing and the fact it's been overshadowed based on the coverage of the last year and a half. Chad, you mentioned how Packers fans must feel knowing Aaron Rodgers took the pay cut of $35 million.
He played ball. He worked with his team.
And you're thinking, this is the Jets feel like they've got the real Aaron Rodgers. The Packers, well, they got the Aaron Rodgers that was like, pay me and give me more power and roster decision ideas, give me input. And they gave him that up to a point where they just weren't going to do this every offseason. But while Rodgers is doing this, and it looks great, it's a great PR move, it's great in the locker room, all of it. Also know the cerebral assassin that is Aaron Rodgers, because this was announced on Wednesday. On Tuesday, he called Jordan Love and said, hey, man, good luck, take over, be yourself. So that was the story in Green Bay on Tuesday, and then he does this for the good of the team on Wednesday. That also sent a message, a subtle jab, but
mind games.
Brilliant play.
Mind games are being played, and I love it.
Chad, more headlines when we return, and we discuss the Kenny Powers that lives.
La Flama Blanca.
A former Power 5 football coach is that guy.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted
he
and then how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow rolls on here on the OutKick Network. Hope you're joining Chad in the chat. And if you're there, we hope you'll subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button and ring that bell. That way you'll get alerted every time we go live at 3 o'clock Eastern each weekday afternoon, or any of the shows across the great OutKick platform. Coming up in 20 minutes, Armando Salguero will give us the latest on Jalen Ramsey, who was carted off the field today, a apparent left knee injury, while defending, really, it was a non-contact, defending Tyreek Hill in one-on-one drills, and was carted off on practice number 2. And just the severity of that doesn't look good now, waiting on details. Plus, all the quarterbacks getting paid, and Joe Burrow and what that's going to be and will look like compared to Justin Herbert. Armando, a big fan of Herbert, by the way. We'll look forward to that in 20 minutes. Plus, AJ Perez of Front Office Sports, who had the report yesterday about the Minnesota football program and the negative light that has been painted based on anonymous players, some of whom were starters under P.J. Fleck at Minnesota, who are claiming and painting a picture of P.J. Fleck and the coaching staff over numerous issues of being lax on certain players and having a bank.
The Fleck Bank?
The Fleck Bank, where you have hypothetical coins, I guess. Then if you have enough, you can get out of certain testing. And get out of punishment, which would be excessive workouts for violating rules. We'll jump into that with him specifically. That's in hour 3. Some of this, and by the way, P.J. Fleck he was just like, this is totally baseless, and went all in on this report as being false. And even went as far to say that they don't do excessive workout, exercise punishments anymore as a program. He's like, not just as the football team, but as an athletic program. We're not doing that anymore at Minnesota. And it
said there was some sort of investigation in 2018 with the whole athletic department that they stopped doing it at that time and haven't done it.
When it goes back.
The whole hazing thing at Northwestern opened up a lot of questions about, is this normal? Have you heard about this happening? And I hear from a lot of older people, it's like, oh, yeah, we did this stuff all the time. Well, back in the day, this is no big deal. But I hear this, and I hear exercise as punishment, and I think this happened in my middle school. Was very common.
Running.
Like, I don't understand how that's a problem. I assumed every program punishes with exercise.
He said today, Fleck
is this a bad thing? I didn't know that it was.
Allegations are baseless. And he goes on to say the Fleck Bank, mostly used in 2017 and 18, was an analogy in a team meeting. There was no currency ever exchanged. There were no coins that ever existed. It was an analogy to simply explain investment for life. Those allegations are baseless.
Now, what this story does more than anything is illustrates just how loony P.J. Fleck can sound at times, but we've always known that. He is a cliche machine. He is a guy who's probably read the Energy Bus about 47 times. When you talk about a Fleck Bank investment for life, that's weird when you're their coach and you're using your name and talking about investment for life into the Fleck Bank. So I think more than anything, it just kind of paints him in an odd light, but I don't know that it's anything damning to him or his program that I've read in this report, but we'll talk to AJ Perez about it.
Chad, though, I in just first glance at what's been reported, what former players are saying, what P.J. Fleck is having to defend here, and again, maybe more details come out, and we certainly reserve the right to change the stance on P.J. Fleck here specifically. But overall, Fleck can be used as an example, but any program right now, I think college football coaching is as difficult as it has ever been, because you're battling name, image, likeness, and collectives and the recruitment there. You're battling, as a part of that, the transfer portal, where guys are jumping in to enter free agency to hear from those collectives in the recruitment process, and to see what else is out there for them. The grass can be greener on the other side. Sometimes it's not. But they're left in the portal sometimes if they don't find a landing spot. Sometimes they're right back. And then on top of that, you have the players who are complaining about running for punishment, which is something that has been, I mean, that is so light and minuscule compared to other allegations we've been covering on this show, if it's just that. And if you're having to also battle that, if you cannot have some discipline within the locker room, and you can't do something that's going to make certain players pissed off and want to leave, because you got to have that in mind in order to not run them off, because you don't want to have to replace those guys. And as A.J. Perez points out, some of the anonymous players are starters on the roster or were. I mean, how do you go about this? Some coaches are just soft in general. I think the vast majority of the quote-unquote soft coaches are doing that because they absolutely have to, not because they want to. And that's just the players that are coming through the door. That's not at every program. You know, you don't hear a peep about what's going on at Bama other than from the players. The Bama practices were so much harder than wherever we're playing right now in the NFL. So there are programs where the coaches have a great rapport, and some coaches who don't. But if you don't have the good rapport with the locker room, that doesn't always mean you're a bad coach or you're going about it the wrong way. You're just trying to instill some hard love there. And they can't do that anymore across the board, by and large, because these guys that are there want to be treated like NFL players because they're second on the depth chart and they deserve to be first, or whatever it might be. It's so difficult, Chad, to where right now P.J. Fleck he knows he can't. He's not allowed, based on university policy, the athletic program policy, to have exercise discipline within the Golden Gophers football program.
There's always been some level of ego massage that takes place in major college football, but it is worse now than ever. Because with a single tweet or Instagram post, a star player can turn your program into the crosshairs of the media for whatever they say. And they know they have that power. They also have that power to transfer anytime they want, where they didn't have that before, where coaches did have more power. And I don't want to make this the woe is me about college coaches. They know what they signed up for. It is more difficult now than ever. They're also being paid better than ever. Not at every level and not at every position. But in large part, major college coaches are getting paid a lot more for the effort. You could look at it and say, because of NIL and collectives, maybe their job in recruiting got a little bit easier if their own collective can just outbid someone and pay more for someone else. But that's not even true, because you still have to build the relationship with the player. It's not enough for top prospects just to get the check. They got to get the love and they got to get the check. So you still have to do your job. It's not like you can stop recruiting and stop communicating with players that you want in your program, because you got to do that 24/7. And on top of that, you got to worry about what they're being offered to come play for you versus what they could be getting offered somewhere else. So I'm with you, Hutton. I can't think of a time that it's been more complex to manage a college football program than it is right now, because of how many different levels there is to this.
Well, there's no good cop, bad cop, because the assistant coaches now are also under that same scrutiny. You know, you can't play the good cop as the head coach. At the bad, you know, you've got the tough offensive-minded or defensive line coach or whatever it might be anymore. Chad, we've got I'm going to get to the Kenny Powers of Power 5 in a moment. Some breaking news in the NFL. Joe Burrow just pulled up with a right leg injury, a lower right leg injury. He's been carted off the practice field in Cincinnati. I'm going to send this, Davey, to you. Hopefully we can play it. And the video is from the reporters who are there. Practice is just wrapping up, so it's not embargoed by the team. And
just tell everyone it's a clip from Strange Wilderness, and it'll be fine. YouTube will allow that. Tell them that Steve Zahn is actually in the clip also, and we'll be good.
So he rolls out to his right, and as he's rolling out to his right, he's looking downfield, and then he just pulls up where he is hopping on his left leg immediately, not putting any weight on his right lower right leg. Then the cart comes out, and takes him inside the training room.
This would be awful.
On a day where Jalen Ramsey was carted off with a left knee injury, and Mike McDaniel won't speak until tomorrow. This is
terrible news.
Massive news if he's done
the last
for the year
thing you
based
want
on this.
from a league perspective, certainly from a Cincinnati perspective, and Joe Burrow one, but for the league, it's the last thing you want. I finished the quarterback series last night, and I was thinking during that, I'm like, man, this is pretty amazing that none of these guys got hurt seriously over the course of this year, that none of them missed time. Marcus Mariota got pulled and then claimed he had a leg injury and left the team at that point to go seek treatment. But Kirk Cousins battled rib injuries the whole year, but he played every game. They get into detail and have some great footage of Patrick Mahomes when he hurts his ankle, the high ankle sprain against Jacksonville in the playoffs, and him on the sideline saying, bleep no, I'm not coming out of the game, and screaming at Andy Reid, refusing to go out of the game in that moment. And you get a lot of his treatment and things. But the fact that they picked 3 guys and none of them were out for the year or out for an extended period of time is remarkable in today's NFL. And then after finishing that series, we get this news the next day that's a reminder of what bad can happen.
This looks like, again, I'm just basing it off of what he's holding. It looks like an Achilles or a calf injury. A lot of those tweeting out are saying he's holding his calf. But, injuries in the league are strange. I've seen a guy that was holding his lower leg that ended up tearing his ACL on the field. Again, don't know, but if it's the Achilles injury, that is massive news for Joe Burrow, who has been extremely patient through the contract negotiations, just like Justin Herbert. They didn't say a peep publicly about it. And he said that the reports are that Burrow's not in any rush, quote unquote, to get it done, even though they've got the parameters now to go well above where Justin Herbert currently resides as the highest paid player at $52.5 million per average per year.
Yeah, this is bad. I'm watching it now as well. Terrible news. Let's hope for the best and hope that it's nothing big. But when they bring the card out, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, and he's got if it's just a calf, he had a sleeve on his calf, on his right calf, Chad. Hopefully it's just that and it's minor, like a pull or something really bad, and that would keep him out for multiple weeks and not a season. And at this stage, multiple weeks would mean he's missing the entire camp and preseason. We'll find out. Are we doing the video or are we stalling? Okay. When I say stall, we'll head to.
Well, I've got something I can get into.
Well, that's what I'm about to set you up for. Chad, I love your text earlier this morning because there is a former head coach in college football who is a real-life Kenny Powers based on further details that continue to emerge from the NCAA investigation at Tennessee.
So Jeremy Pruitt recently received a multi-year show cause from the NCAA for wide-sweeping recruiting violations while he was at Tennessee. And had to cop to most of them and had some really awful defenses of some of the other things that he did. Over 100 people on his staff were involved. Most all of them were fired. Some are coaching in the SEC right now and having to answer questions at practice about their involvement when they were at Tennessee. But much like another person who once had their career shamed in the height of their powers, it was one Kenny Powers who made some missteps over the course of his career as a closer in Major League Baseball. This, of course, from the HBO show Eastbound and Down, an all-time comedy classic. Jeremy Pruitt has now gone full Kenny Powers because he has returned to high school. Jeremy Pruitt today took a job as a PE teacher at an Alabama high school. Hutton, I, for one, cannot wait until he chaperones the middle school dance, until he tells his PE class about his exploits the way Kenny Powers did. This is a story made for Jeremy Pruitt. He truly is the real-life Kenny Powers.
Can you imagine?
I also tweeted out that there's going to be some faces melting during third period dodgeball because Jeremy
He'll
Pruitt,
participate.
He's going to unleash hell with his kids in this setting. Like they are not going to be allowed to hold back.
And did you mention his dad?
You know when you hit somebody in the head in dodgeball in school and you were out, if you hit him in the head? I think that Jeremy Pruitt will make a rule. If you hit someone in the face with the ball, another one of their teammates has to go out also. He will encourage headshots during dodgeball.
So he's going to coach junior. He's going to coach junior high basketball, according to Principal Chris Clark.
This is going to be the next. Remember the Sean Payton movie with Kevin James? I think Netflix and Adam Sandler's going to option the movie about Jeremy Pruitt coaching middle school basketball after being an SEC head coach.
His dad's also there at this high school.
He's going to work with his dad.
Chad, did you see the quote from the principal?
No, I did not.
From Chris Clark, principal at Plainview High School.
Great name for a principal, by the way, Chris Clark.
He's a hometown hero. His kids have gone to school here. He's a great teacher. He's a great coach. He was the most qualified person for the job. We're lucky to have him. And his wife, Casey, was hired at the school last month. It's a family school now.
Do you think they're going to pass out money in the brown lunch bags to kids, to star athletes, to make sure they're taken care of?
Easier to hide that, I guess.
Do you think that he's still? You think that he's still been so touched by George Floyd and Black Lives Matters that he's going to give back to the community, the way he did in Knoxville, the way he gave back to the community by only paying 4- and 5-star African American athletes?
No
one else.
Some of who didn't even go to the school there after receiving the payment. Maybe we'll see Jeremy Pruitt now. I don't know, Orange Beach on a jet ski.
Well, OutKick should shoot the documentary of Jeremy Pruitt, middle school basketball coach.
Joe Burrow was just carted off the practice field. Armando Salguero joins us next.
Do you feel as if, well, I'm pretty certain I know your answer because I know how I felt in college. I had to take, my major was actually chemistry at first as well. And I had to take a lot of ethics courses and different, I actually took a gender study course as well. And I felt like I had to tailor my papers a certain way to get a good grade. And what I'm noticing is across the country, that's the consensus. Even in the South, like where I went, University of Kentucky, we felt this way. And so I entirely agree with you that this is, it's happening all over. About the backlash, how I mentioned, she came out and essentially used the argument of your argument was based in white supremacy. Have you gotten a lot of backlash, or do you just kind of get the name calling, such as being called a racist for saying freedom of speech should exist?
Isn't that crazy to be called a racist? Calling out being suppressed in school. It's so weird to see where people's heads are at. But yeah, there has been a lot of backlash, a lot of name calling, obviously. And the death threats are like, I'm gonna show up at your house. I'm like, okay, please do.
Yeah.
Like it's just a lot of that. And like I haven't had a ton of questioning of what I'm saying because they actually have no objection to what I'm saying. They're just like, you're transphobic. And I'm like, okay, but you have no real argument. That says a lot more about you than me. And it says that my argument is real and I actually am saying the truth and you can't even argue against that. So you're just going to call me a name.
And I love that you can acknowledge that, because this cancel culture that we live in, they want you to think you'll be canceled. They want you to be scared of the name calling. But that really is all it is. And it speaks more to their insecurities than it does to yours. I saw people on TikTok, Olivia. I saw people coming for your eyebrows. Is that what they're going to resort to? And you're right. It's because they can't dissuade from your argument, which is actually really powerful. And it should boost your confidence. I think when people can look at a situation and take the negative, such as the backlash you're getting, which does suck. There's no taking away from that. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. It does take a toll on you. But if you can take that backlash you're getting and ultimately use it to fuel your argument, I wish more people had that same perspective that you have. But what about the positive? Have you received a lot of good feedback? Have you had a lot of doors being open for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the opportunities that I have had are just absolutely incredible. And the support from people like you and all these other speakers who've spoken up about, men in their sports. And the ones that really stick out to me are actually the parents of young girls who are messaging me and saying, I have 2 daughters who are running cross country just like you did. Thank you so much for protecting them. Thank you so much for sticking up for them in their futures. And I'm like, That's why I'm doing this. It's not really for me. It's for all of these other girls, and not even just girls, but for college students, for young men, like all of these people. I want to help them. I mean, America was built on freedom of speech. That's why we are what we are. And colleges are now trying to take that away. And like we said earlier, it's going down a bad path.
You know, Olivia, you sound like you're filled with hate. You sound just super hateful. No, how could anyone listen to your argument and say that that's hateful? I mean, I hear the compassion coming from your voice, advocating for what you're advocating for. It really is for everyone, all ages, all sexual orientations, even all gender identities. That's who you're advocating for, to be able to speak freely.
Big injuries today across the NFL. Welcome back. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow here on the OutKick Network. Armando Salguero covers the NFL for OutKick.com, does a tremendous job, and is extremely busy this time of year with the camps are underway as we gear up for football season. Armando, we saw the Herbert contract. We'll get to that in a moment. Burrow is set to be the highest paid player in NFL history. He's up next. And just recently, within the last 5 minutes, and Zach Taylor spoke post-practice, Joe Burrow goes down holding his right calf and is carted off the practice field. Zach Taylor says it is a calf injury, but had no further details at this time. But this would be a massive deal had it been, and we don't know officially the word on the calf injury. But, man, the timing of this is just crazy.
Right. So, first of all, calf injuries better than a knee injury.
No doubt.
Okay?
Or Achilles.
Or an Achilles, yeah.
Or an Achilles, correct. You see there that Joe Burrow was already wearing a sleeve over his right calf, and so that makes you wonder if he wasn't already a little nicked.
And
Taylor,
Taylor said that he was wearing that sleeve. Something happened today, and he put that sleeve on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And something happened before this injury. So
yeah, he said he was wearing the sleeve today, is what he said.
Right. Of course.
Now, you saying he put it on today for the first time?
Zach Taylor said it was due to something that happened today.
He had something happen, put the sleeve on, then something else happened is what Zach Taylor's saying, and that's when he left.
And what I'm saying is something happened, and they put him back in there to take another rep. And so, they put the sleeve on, and in the next couple of reps, he goes down with that area injury. I know this. Calf injuries, not fun. And it's not because it's going to take you out of games and so forth, but especially not this time of year. But once you get them, you have to wait. You have to wait until they are healed, or you are likely to get others. It's just bad. And I would suggest to you that we're probably not going to see Joe Burrow in the preseason now. And it's rough because Joe Burrow only yesterday was talking about how he was so happy that this is the first training camp that he has that is an actual full training camp where he is not rehabbing something, coming off of something. Last year, you'll remember, he had an appendicitis attack and had a surgery and went to camp right after the surgery. And the year before that, he was coming off an ACL injury. And the year before that was the COVID year. And so he hasn't had a chance to have a full training camp. And it doesn't look like he's going to get that again this year.
I think I know your answer to this question, Armando, based on your reaction to this story when we were talking about it. But does it surprise you that Zach Taylor did not use extreme caution when anything happened in this practice and instead put a calf sleeve on and put Joe Burrow back out there?
Right. So the part about putting him back out there, that is on him. But if the trainers aren't saying, hey, he needs to come out, if the trainers are saying he's okay to go, or if Joe Burrow is saying, I'm fine, what's the head coach going to do? Is he going to go, no, you got to get out of there? Or I don't know, man.
Armando Salguero with us. Armando, Jalen Ramsey carted off today with it would appear to be a left knee injury. We'll hear from Mike McDaniel tomorrow on that. But the newcomer who they acquired via trade is paired up with Xavier Howard. They had a litany of corner issues and injuries a year ago, and now Ramsey goes down on day number 2. Your take of the secondary now and what that means for what they had planned within Vic Fangio's defense.
Right. My take is let's not jump to conclusions because we don't know that Jalen Ramsey is gone or out or, anything. We've had the first 2 days of practice. I've counted at least 7 guys carted off the field, and all of them have come back up until today. And so I'm not ready to tell you Jalen Ramsey is messed up for the year or for any extended period of time. I don't know. And by the way, no one else knows. So I would say let's be cautious. If Jalen Ramsey is not able to play for the Miami Dolphins for any extended period of time, it obviously hurts the defense. Everybody knows that. He is not only their highest priced defensive player, but he is the guy around which, in conjunction with Xavier Howard, they were expecting to build a defense around. If you've got Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard locking up the receivers outside, you can blitz. If you've got Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard locking up the receivers outside, you can play 7, 8 guys in the box on rundowns without concern. If you don't have him, that changes things for Vic Fangio.
Armando, do you like Sean Payton going scorched earth on Nathaniel Hackett and the Broncos of last year? Is that refreshing to you? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere in the middle? What is the Armando Salguero reaction when you read those quotes from Sean Payton that he gave to Jarrett Bell?
Well, I'm a member of the media. Get to it, Sean. Light them fires and let the napalm drop. It's fine with me. Having said that, it's not good for the Denver Broncos. And this is the reason that it's not good for the Denver Broncos. He didn't just go scorched earth on the New York Jets. He went also scorched earth on guys within the facility, and those guys are still there. Those guys are still employed, including, by the way, the team president, including the general manager, and he also ripped the PR. And the Broncos have one of the best PR departments in the NFL, and Sean just, ripped it all. The only guy that he really defended was, in fact, Russell Wilson, who out of all those people did the worst job because he was actually on the field and got the least amount of production out of himself. So it's probably not in the Broncos' best interest that now the head coach is ripping guys that he's working with. As far as the New York Jets are concerned, their attitude is, we play you in week 5. Let's see what happens. And my guess is that come week 5 of this NFL season, today's quotes will come back up within the halls of Florham Park where the New York Jets train.
Armando, it wasn't that long ago. We were trying to debate Aaron Rodgers and what he would want to do when he came out of the darkness retreat. Turns out he saw gangrene. And then here we are talking about a refreshed Aaron Rodgers. He looks happy, content, energized, ready to go win. And he takes a $35 million pay cut. That's really, on paper, it's lengthier, but a 2-year contract for $75 million. What do you make of the new Aaron Rodgers, who you've already proclaimed he is the king of New York?
Right. A couple of things. First of all, it's a legit pay cut. He was due $110 million guaranteed over the next 2 years, and now that's $75 million guaranteed over the next 2 years. Number two, and to me, most shocking of all, it was his idea. Think about that. Because I don't remember me saying, hey, I didn't produce enough last week, or I'd like for OutKick to hire another NFL guy. I'll take a 35% whatever pay cut, 30% pay cut, so you can hire somebody and help me.
The last 2 years he's wanted more, not less in Green Bay.
And that's the other thing. It's the most unreal troll job I've ever seen in my life. Because once upon a time, the Green Bay Packers are counting their pennies on the one hand because they've got to deliver a Brinks truck to Aaron Rodgers on the other, and you can't do both. And so if I'm Green Bay, I appreciate what Aaron Rodgers did most of the time, but there were times in the last few years particularly where Aaron Rodgers, we now see that, man, you weren't all in for us.
And people will forget this, Chad, but on Tuesday he called Jordan Love to wish him well. Be yourself, Jordan. And then on Wednesday,
it's amazing.
This happens.
This is Armando. This is Aaron Rodgers with the biggest. You see, I am a good guy. They're the bad guys. I've been a good guy all along. It was them that tainted all of you to believing I'm a bad guy. It was just I didn't want to work with them. Now look how nice I am and how much of a team guy I am. Does being this nice team guy, Armando, lead you to believe that Dalvin Cook now will be a New York Jet alongside Aaron Rodgers?
Well, clearly this wouldn't be happening with Dalvin Cook. The visit that is happening in the next day or so, he was flying to New York today, as a matter of fact, wouldn't have happened unless Dalvin Cook, A, decided I will play for a veteran minimum, or B, unless Aaron Rodgers helped the Jets with a major pay cut. And so the major pay cut is already producing fruits in that it provides the Jets the ability, at least, to chase more talent, to do what? Help Aaron Rodgers. So it's an investment on Aaron Rodgers' part. I get that. But as far as New York Jets fans are concerned and the New York Jets organization, Aaron Rodgers is a stud and a hero.
Armando, so is Justin Herbert. Maybe not a hero yet, but he's a stud. He's overlooked a bit because we haven't seen the results in Los Angeles. I've seen terrible results from his defense on the other side of the football. But I know you wrote it at OutKick. This is a quarterback that has elite talent and a chance now to have elite results based on what he's done through his first 3 years.
I wrote this when I think it was Monday. The days are starting to run together.
Yeah.
I did the ranking of coaches, worst to best. I'm sorry, Brandon Staley is kind of wasted Justin Herbert the last couple of years. He just has. And I know they made the playoffs last year. And Justin Herbert gave them a 27-7 halftime lead.
Yep.
And they lost the game to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Justin Herbert played a lot last year with rib injuries that would have kept most guys out, 5 weeks at least. And he was in the lineup next week.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And yet those heroics, that kind of performance, he is in the Peyton Manning orbit right now. Peyton Manning threw for over 4,000 yards his first 4 years. This is Justin Herbert's 4th year. If he does it again, it'll be him and Peyton Manning who will have done that. So, I don't know. You would figure that kind of performance would bring you more than just one playoff appearance and no playoff wins.
Yep. And the clock is ticking on Staley. That is for sure. And they've added some pieces defensively. They've got to get vastly better. Boatloads of points have been scored, but also allowed since Justin Herbert got there. Armando, always great, man. We love the training camp coverage and always love the visit.
Thanks for setting up next to the Orange Bowl for us, too. It's a great backdrop today. We appreciate you making that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Always my pleasure. Bye-bye, guys.
Armando Salguero, OutKick's senior NFL writer. Always solid work.
You are
there.
looking live at the Orange Bowl, where Armando Salguero joins us. Always love his backdrop.
Mbappe, based on the reported offer, was scheduled to make more per month than LeBron James is scheduled to make in the upcoming entire NBA season. And he turned it down on a 1-year, $776 million contract. We discuss that next. Plus, we get weird with UFO news. That's next.
Davey Hudson of OutKick here. We are at SEC Media Days 2023 in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to go talk to some players, see what they have to say. What's the best purchase you've made from an NIL deal so far?
Tag watch right here.
Far.
Best purchase? I probably just give it back to my son for real. That's probably my best purchase every time.
Man, pay my truck off. Definitely.
A house. My wife and I bought a house, so that's been huge. Being able to save that money up and buy a house.
This chain here.
The best purchase? I'd probably say helping my mom out with school.
Ooh, the best purchase? Probably the shoes. The shoes I got on right now.
The best purchase I made, well, the best NIL deal I've had is free steaks from Marksbury Farms, so keep me fed and beefed up.
With it.
Ooh, purchase? Probably a new golf bag. Or recently I played TPC Sawgrass this past weekend, and that was from I used that money from a deal I made, so that's up there too.
Probably getting my sister through college, helping my family out a lot. That's probably my best purchase I've done.
Best purchase? Probably my my mom and dad anniversary gift.
The best purchase I've made? I got a yoga mat the other day, and that's helped me a lot. Just flexibility and everything like that, so probably that.
Best purchase? My smile. Best purchase? I would say my best purchase was having my school supply drive.
Landon, what is your favorite sports movie of all time?
Remember the Titans for sure. Sport movie, I say Love and Basketball. That's my favorite.
Got to be Remember the Titans for sure.
Remember the Titans. I mean, it's top movie ever.
Probably Longest Yard.
I'd probably say Like Mike with Bow Wow.
Yeah.
My favorite sports movie, Remember the Titans.
Air Bud.
Perfect answer, actually.
I really don't know. I don't have one.
Movie? I haven't seen many, but does Sandlot count?
Favorite sports movie of all time? Probably Coach Carter.
Ooh, sports movie. Probably The Express.
Happy Gilmore.
The Little Giants.
Amari, what was your most favorite sports movie growing up?
Remember the Titans.
Barbie or Oppenheimer? Which one are you and the boys seeing first?
I don't know the other one, but definitely not Barbie.
Oppenheimer, gotta be. I'm not against the Barbie movie though. I tried to recommend it. I was shut down pretty fast.
Oppenheimer. Come on now. You don't need to ask me that question. Oppenheimer looks good though.
What's Oppenheimer?
It's a movie about the atomic bomb. It's the big thing that comes out this Thursday.
Yeah, probably that.
Oppenheimer.
Wait, what was the other one?
Barbie or Oppenheimer?
The opposite of Barbie. The opposite of Barbie. Yeah, so I'm not.
We're gonna see Oppenheimer and then follow with Barbie.
Solid choice.
I don't even know what Oppenheimer is. I don't want to see Barbie though.
Oppenheimer, 100%.
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Say a little bit louder.
Oppenheimer.
Oh, we're gonna watch both of them. Maybe on the same night. We'll probably watch. I think you gotta watch Barbie first, just so you're not. Oppenheimer might be a little too intense. You know what I'm saying? So you warm up with Barbie and then you go to the Oppenheimer.
The second one. Oppenheimer.
Sorry. Barbie or Oppenheimer? Which one are you and the boys seeing first?
Barbie.
Coming up, AJ Perez, Front Office Sports, who had the report yesterday about the Minnesota football program, the allegations of a toxic culture involving running, and among other things, crawling, I believe, bear crawling until you, puked, was one of the former players that remain anonymous.
I think there were multiple exercises that involved do this till you puke.
Yeah, and a fleck bank where if you collect enough chips, it was a reward of collecting enough fleck chips to potentially get out of certain failed drug tests and things. Fleck totally denied it and said it was a baseless report. So AJ Perez, his report, will have him on, and he's coming on at his scheduled time, which is in just over 15 minutes, because he is currently right now at Big Ten Media Days in the media portion with Minnesota football players who are present.
Yeah, I think it's up to the person who reads the report to decide what you think about, the severity of what's being alleged. But it's certainly not a baseless report because he acknowledged a fleck bank. He just says there weren't physical coins that were deposited. It was all theoretical, his fleck bank and what he's talking about with his players.
Coming up, we'll have Let's Get Weird with Davey Hudson. First, though, Mbappe, soccer phenomenon. Number 3 on the Forbes list for highest paid last year. Number 1, Messi. Number 2, Ronaldo. Number 3, Mbappe. He refused to meet with the Saudi club and turned down a reported $1.1 billion offer where roughly $300 million of that would have gone to his team in France, in Paris, with that club as the buyout, which they're looking for. They hope someone's going to pay them that type money. They paid that type money to acquire him originally. He's not going to pick up an option. The deadline for that is July 31st. That's why the timing now was for Saudi to do this. But he turns down $776 million in a one-year deal, Chad. Now, just breaking that down is unbelievable to think about from this standpoint. It's $58.3 million per month, $13.3 million per week, $1.9 million per day, $80,000 an hour, and once he would have signed, he would have earned $1,332 per minute over that year.
It's based on those numbers, it's a little over $5 million more in 1 month than Justin Herbert's, the highest paid player in NFL history, will make for the year.
It's more than LeBron in 1 year in his current deal. That is
insane.
Crazy. But here's where...
So I think Herbert's around like 52 and a half, 53, and they was going to make $58 million a month.
52 and a half, yeah.
So over $5.5 million more in a month than Herbert will make for the year.
16 years ago to the month, Grant Wall had the cover story at Sports Illustrated, and he is talking about the future of soccer. David Beckham and his addition to MLS and what it would mean for the future of soccer. The headline on the cover 16 years ago to the month. David Beckham, will he change the fate of American soccer? That by Grant Wall, who passed away last year, who died in Qatar last year, covering the World Cup. Chad, it now goes full circle for me, seeing this on social and then thinking, well, David Beckham is also bringing in Messi, who turned down Saudi. Now you have Mbappe turning down the money. If you're trying to buy soccer, and there are several stars from Europe who have taken this and they're joining this league. Ronaldo's there on a 2-year deal, getting $200 million per season. But if you start having the top guys on earth turning this down, then everyone's just going to follow suit based on that, unless they're just going to take the bankroll. And I think at that point, you got to be a certain status to get this offer from Saudi.
One other possibility, the private investment fund of Saudi Arabia starts caring less about their own home league,
right,
and buys a couple clubs in MLS,
right,
and then offers that money to Mbappe to come to Cincinnati, wherever,
and by the way,
in MLS, and come play here Atlanta, and then you infiltrate American soccer with MLS, and you change the face of it with international superstars.
No doubt.
Way. I also think for Mbappe, that's a lot of money. I'm not, if someone gets offered that much money, it's shocking when they turn it down. There are some people, though, that they just don't want to leave the limelight. Like, he is playing in the biggest spotlight in the world.
But it would be
for
year.
one of the biggest clubs in the world. And maybe he just doesn't want to go play in Saudi Arabia for a year. He'd rather just continue living the life he is with all the money he's making now. And all of that money isn't as enticing to him.
So it goes back, though. So his current club, they don't expect him to pick up his option for 2024. Knowing that, they want to get millions in return for transferring his contract now, and because the transfer is still open. So Real Madrid is believed to be the team that he's going to eventually sign with in 2024 by not picking up the option. Real Madrid will be bidding. Manchester United is there. This is different
all
than Messi.
Big boys.
It's
all
different
the big
than
boys
Messi,
in Europe,
who just took the gig in MLS, right? This is next level for him. He's trying to do that. Now we see the bidding war there, and just compare the millions upon millions. But they're looking for 200+ million in just the transfer buyout from the Paris club. Crazy money, though. Just putting that in perspective on what Saudi offered him on a 1-year contract. Nuts. But if you're going to buy soccer, Chad, you're right. You got to buy the league, buy MLS. Hard to do.
And see if those European stars will come play in America the way Messi, a South American star, came to play in Miami.
And now MLS gets a big boost with Messi, and now another boost for whoever lands Mbappe, of course. Chad, there's some hearings going on, and it starts out our segment with Davey Hudson. Let's get weird.
Classic.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Classic.
Top men. Yes, so.
Spoiler alert, classic ending we just saw there to Raiders Lost Ark. One of the best endings to a movie ever.
So, guys, as you know, mentioned the UFOs, which, by the way, UFO stands for Unidentified Flying Object. Just so you know, the government has now changed it to UAP, which stands for Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena.
Yeah,
So,
guess what? It's a UFO.
Yeah.
So, but, yes, you mentioned the House Oversight Committee. I'm just letting you know the current dialect that they're using, or not dialect, but the terminology that they are using for this. But, yes, one of the UFO whistleblowers, as we've been discussing a little bit about, it's kind of been a big thing, testified that his life was threatened over secret alien life retrieval and their tech. One of the guys' name, I'll just read this from a Fox News article, but UFO whistleblower David Grush testified under oath his life was threatened, and he was instructed to keep quiet about a secret government-run crashed UFO retrieval program. He also said that the government absolutely, in quotes, has UFO tech and biologics of non-human origins since the 1930s and knows the exact locations of where they are being held. So, Do with that as you will.
Don't know that I believe this. I know a lot of people have taken this as, okay, it definitely exists. I'm not going to say that it definitely does not exist, and there's not something we've retrieved that we can't explain, but this biologics they're talking about, basically unidentified life forms from another planet that we're in possession of, I don't know that I buy that, Dutton. I don't know that these two guys testifying to this changes my mind on that.
What else were they discussing, though, at these hearings, other than just these two guys claiming they know where everything is?
That's it. It's just those two guys.
So well, it's just how the United States has supposedly held all this information from the public. And so now the public's just kind of like, what do we actually not know that you all have been keeping from us?
Globally, do you think other countries are discussing UFO sightings the way Americans do? Because I don't. Based on, there's a ArcGIS, ARCGIS.com is the website. You can see a heat map of all UFO sightings that have been reported. It's in Europe, like a very small group in Europe. And then you have the entire United States is just lit up. And it's not lit up like New York City. I haven't seen anyone with a phone that we have the ability now to have the movie picture quality on the new iPhone. Everything that happens to be spotted is just out in the middle of nowhere or out in the middle of a desert. Some would say, oh, it's because, it's much easier to see the sky at night. Well, I would say, well, it's pretty easy for 1 million people in a city to look up and find something if it's that obvious.
Yeah, I love David Duchovny in the X-Files as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to buy these two guys saying that when no one else has spotted it or seen it on camera. Davey, where do you fall on this?
As far as, do I think we have...
I'm talking aliens.
The whole thing. Do you believe these guys?
I don't believe these guys, but I do believe that there is extraterrestrial life outside of Earth.
It is fascinating, though, that the American part about this. Like, this is a very American... This all started post-World War II, and it became an American fascination. With Roswell, the 70s saw this huge spike in supposed abductions. Right, that was with the big craze out west of people being abducted, saying that. There's also a whole idea that people being abducted is a mental mechanism to get over being assaulted as a young person, and that's how their mind changes it, that someone came into their room and did bad things to them at some point, and they think they change it to an alien abduction because it's easier to handle that way, and that's how people truly believe they were abducted by aliens. I've read studies on that. And also you think about a country like Japan, they believe firmly in ghosts. Like, every country has something. Like, in Japan, Japanese people, 97% of them believe they live with ghosts and that they know a ghost and they've seen ghosts in their home.
Are they
so I
also
think
from
every
the Civil
culture
War
is
era?
different. And I think our culture is...
Are they also from 1863?
Is alien obsessed.
Well, I mean...
The Japanese
the
Civil War.
I'm not big into the
one
idea
Tom
of
Cruise
ghosts.
fought in Last Samurai?
Do you ever know people, it's like, I got a bit of The Shine? You ever had anyone say that to you?
Yeah.
I just kind of look at them and I'm like, while The Shining's a decent movie, that's as far as I'll go on that. Dr. Sleep, actually much better than The Shining. But
I thought Dr. Sleep was very good, too. The Shining is better, but it was a good, many years later, sequel.
But as far as just life outside of Earth, I mean, there are 200 billion trillion stars in the universe. That's your fact for the day. 200 billion trillion stars. So the fact that
Saudi's going to offer that to
we
someone.
are alone, it's a good one. I struggle to comprehend. I mean, if we are, just the importance of life at that point is pretty remarkable, to say the least.
Well, they also have there's a radio wave or something that they don't know where it came from.
This one's a little bit more, and I just one of the other deep dives I often do that you guys would probably call me a nerd for is just the idea of astronomy.
We'll let the audience decide
and
for
so,
themselves. We don't need to
for
call
this,
we don't need
this
to
story,
in our own way.
Yeah, there's an unknown object that has been sending radio signals to Earth, and this goes back for over 30 years. They first started tracking this in the 80s, and the way in which that this radio wave hits, it hits at a different frequency than you would normally see, and so the article, you can read about it on OutKick, but the radio waves come every 22 minutes, which is a very long time between what you would typically have 4 radio waves. They're generally about 60 radio bursts a minute, so pretty much like 1 a second, whereas this is every 22 minutes we're getting that radio burst. And what astronomers actually believe, even though a lot of people are tying this more into aliens are sending a signal, it's more likely it's just a slow-spinning neutron star that is pushing this out there, and that's why we're just receiving the signal there.
I'm going to need more than these two guys. That's my closing statement on this hearing is I need more than these two guys.
I need Neil deGrasse Tyson to see a UFO. I need the guy who talks about this all the time.
Or me.
Who believes in that, like extra. We need. Where is he's got a damn telescope that's better than anything on the globe.
I'll have a
Where's
fact
his
for that
sighting?
tomorrow.
AJ Perez joins us next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted
did
and then how he did it.
he bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the final hour is here on this Thursday edition. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. Plenty of headlines across college football and the NFL, where Joe Burrow carted off the field today for the Cincinnati Bengals with an apparent calf injury. And we'll have further details tomorrow on that. We've got Jalen Ramsey, who was carted off today with a left knee issue. And Mike McDaniel in Miami will speak more to that. And, of course, Colorado to the Big 12, the vote that's happening, and that is inevitable. And what's next for the Pac-12 at this point. And at Big Ten Media Days, plenty to discuss, from everything at Northwestern to big expectations for certain programs. And then reports that are similar, and a great example is A.J. Perez of Front Office Sports, who had the exclusive report yesterday. Right as we were going off air, A.J., we saw your report about the certain culture at Minnesota since P.J. Fleck arrived.
He was part of the flood of news that happened in college football right at the end of our show.
Yes.
Right in the middle of it, we were having to report.
Where you have anonymous players, and several of them, including some former starters, staff members as well, detailing things behind the scenes of exercise punishments, the Fleck bank to potentially get out of a positive drug test. Will you detail the information as you join us from Big Ten Media Days, and what you heard today from P.J. Fleck, who said this was a baseless report, and what you've heard from Minnesota players to this point?
Yeah, there was P.J. Fleck he was on the podium earlier. Then he was in front of us for a scrum for 45 minutes, and I was there for all but the first minute of that. It's a lot of pushback. We reported yesterday. It was a very long story, exhaustive story, more than 3,000 words about the environment there at from using, like you said, former players, former staff members, anonymous, or I know not anonymously. Since you saw the pushback I've received online, this is why we did it that way. I mean, I didn't want them to take the hits. I wanted them to tell their story, and they did. And some more have reached out since the story went up, and I'm following that up today. The main thing a lot of people are pushing back on is the exercise punishment. That's something that the NCAA since 2014 actually has had guidelines in place to prevent. It was following deaths of players or very serious injuries of players doing these punishing workouts. And this is before Jordan McNair, and I covered Jordan McNair from the time the incident happened. Before he was on life support for 2 weeks before he passed away, and I've covered all that. I was all over that investigation and how it was handled by the University of Maryland, and so this is kind of, I'm gonna say, personal to me, because I am a personal trainer, so I'm a performance coach as well. This is like athlete health is something that should be taken very seriously, and I know. And today, Fleck said that he's never used punishments as workouts. Although the players who have reached out since my story went up yesterday have told me that yes, he did, and I got more details of that. And that's against school policy. It's against NCAA policy. And it's not just doing 10 push-ups. It's like these things can be bear crawls for 400 yards. You have, burpees / up downs, until, some guys have puked. And it's like, but there's also other injury. But we detailed one heart issue that wasn't known at the time, where a player went down during a workout. There's gonna be more to come. And it's I expected pushback. I expected, especially what a macho sport that football is. But that's what the story contained. That was a response here today.
What can you tell us about the Fleck bank that you reported on in this story? And I know that when P.J. Fleck said it's a baseless report, he did acknowledge the Fleck bank exists, but he spun it in a way that wasn't necessarily the way you reported it. So can you square that with us on what you reported and then what P.J. Fleck said about it, which certainly could not have been baseless considering he acknowledged that it does exist?
Yeah, and actually after he talked, I talked to one of the players who said it's still going on. They use different terms as far as what it's used for, but it was something he brought from Western Michigan over, and it wasn't a new system. It's basically, if you it's an accountability thing, but which a lot of coaches have. It's totally normal. You want your players to be accountable. You want them to get good grades. You want them show up to tutor and if they have to. But my report, and this is off my sources, where it was used to, if you had coins or a high enough balance in this Fleck bank, these former players were telling me that you get away with things. That whether that is a positive drug test, which I had more details of, which I asked Fleck about today, from 2018, and that you're able to kind of get out of punishments, and some of those things are pretty serious team rule violations. He pushed back at the players, while acknowledging the Fleck bank. They didn't really give any details today as far as what it consists of now, but it's something that's was here in Minnesota since 2017, and it's carried over, and it's something that that was confirmed today both by Fleck and by one of his players when I asked.
AJ Perez with us, Front Office Sports, with a report on Minnesota's football program, specifically PJ Fleck, and also the Fleck Bank, and then there's a Fleck book that included the row your boat mantra, which you set up in your report that you did not ask about. It was unprompted, but more than one player would reference row your boat was more than just some term or slogan for, trying to everyone pull in the same direction. It was the word cult was used. Can you give more context to what they were trying to tell you and what they did?
Yeah, it was all part of especially when he got to Minnesota in 2017. He took over a program. He was the youngest Power 5 coach at the time, and he kind of pushed. He took a lot of stuff that it was the row the boat stuff, which is actually still trademarked by Western Michigan. He brought over the same kind of concept to the Golden Gophers, and this was all coaches have weird sayings and slogans. And strength coaches, there's a lot of different acronyms to use, but it was all part of I was described kind of as basically an indoctrination, and that included in that around the time those players, the players get the Fleck book, back in 2017, and it's still going on now. When he got there in 2017, the strength coach had to teach the players how to clap, and they had to practice that. So, and every time a player comes, a coach comes into the room, you have to clap for him. And it seems kind of corny and thing, but when you add this all together, it does sound like a lot of college football programs, but it was also part of this whole mindset that Fleck, and Fleck is a very energetic coach. He's had success. But these players detailed to me what it did to their mental health, and this is one of the things that they mentioned to me.
So, and just to clarify, every player you spoke with, some were starters from 2017 to 2021, which I believe every player is from this era, those years, specifically when Fleck arrived. And every player was under scholarship. These are not walk-ons or different players that are there for practice. Everyone received a scholarship that you talked with. Overall, why is this the timing of this now? Did you get a sense for it?
Oh, that's a good. That's a really good question. I was tipped off to this a couple of weeks before everything went down at the University of Northwestern. So I was working on it. Granted, I was doing the Dan Snyder sale still, and working on that, and that thankfully finished last Thursday and Friday. So I kind of moved. I was working on that. Was working on this and all the Commander stuff at the same time. And it just kind of, when you have a story this complex, especially using anonymous sources as we did, it takes a lot to get through a lot of reviews. Not just my editors. It has to go through legal review. We have to give the school a chance to comment. We gave them more time. They asked for more time. We gave them more time. And meanwhile, one of the players told me today that they had a heads up of the story before I even, they knew I cast a wide net. I talked to a lot of people. I knew that they would figure out that I'm working on this. So, but we have to give the school time to comment, which we did. Give them an extra time to comment. And then even after that, we didn't publish for about 20 hours after that response. We were very careful. I went back through all my interviews. I did all these fact checks to make sure everything was correct. That I would have loved for it to run last week. I would have my first draft was in 2 weeks ago. That's how long this process goes.
Do you have a response? I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but paraphrasing, PJ Fleck said something along the lines of, "Oh, players that have been dismissed from our program have come after the program every year in the past. This is nothing new." Do you have a response to that and him saying that it's just players that were dismissed from the program?
This was a party line today. I don't know. I'm just analysis here. Probably some media training. They did give these players heads up, and they were on point. I heard multiple players say this happens every year. Well, there hasn't been a report since 2021, so there hasn't been a report since on this issue for 2 years. So this does not happen every year. There was the local TV station in the Twin Cities did have a report, and I referenced that in my story. But my reporting was totally new off that. I talked to people that reporter didn't talk to, a lot of people that they know, and I followed up, and I'm still getting new information now. This is just one story. I'm going to stay on this, kind of like I said on Dan Snyder. I'm not out to get anybody, but it's more people are reaching out. The story has, while I've gotten some blowback, the story actually has led more people to reach out to me and feel comfortable since we handled the story as we did yesterday.
Can we expect more, that based on what you've heard since the story was published, and can we expect more soon with this story based on everything you're hearing from others that have reached out?
I'll have a little more information today for my second story. I did a quick story off of what PJ Fleck said from the podium. But yeah, this is going to be something that's this is a long process. They're a public university. I can do open records requests, which you couldn't do with Northwestern or any other private institution. So I'm going to be sending more requests off, and I'm going to see what comes out of that. There's going to be a lot of more digging and a lot of more outreach. I want to get to a point where I'm not relying totally on anonymous sources. I know how people feel about that. If I could ever get people go on the record, I would love that. I think maybe we'll get to that point sometime soon.
And going back to the Fleck Bank, if in fact they were getting out of the ramifications of a failed drug test, right, and it helped them if they had enough coins in the Fleck Bank, does the football? I know the athletic director has commented he backs Fleck, who's under contract through 2029. It's long term. Mm-hmm. Does the football program specifically handle those drug tests, or is this a university test for an athletic program? Is it very specific to football, or do the results go to the coach and then he determines discipline?
He doesn't. How it happens to Drug Free Sport, which is actually the company that tests pretty much everybody, including the NFL and pro sports. They collect the samples. They do the testing. The results go to the administrator, which would be Coyle or his designee, as they say.
Yeah.
A first strike positive depends if it's PEDs or if it's if it's a street drug. They handle a little differently, but a first strike doesn't necessarily mean a player is going to be has to sit. It goes to a 3-person panel. That panel within the athletic department is the one that determines whether it be suspended or treatment. That's how it's handled. And Coach Fleck today reiterated that. Yeah, he was totally hands off when I asked about the positives that I learned of in 2018, and he said he had no say. No say in how that's handled.
Yeah, and just final thought here, as we're about a minute left. Were any of the anonymous sources those who received a benefit from a failed drug test? And again, like if the university or the athletic director has the authority over it, it comes back to him. Is this something where if they're helping before the test is taken, or is this something afterwards to where it would actually benefit discipline?
No, I think there's really no indication that anybody tipped off these players that they're going to be tested. I think a lot of this was a bowl test. So in the NCAA, there's a couple tests a year, usually before the season. Then if you get to a bowl, there'll be a test there. But then there's also there are random tests the school does conduct, and Coach Fleck has no control over that. So it's really should, per the policy, it's supposed to be handled by someone else high up in the department, like Coyle, and then they have like a special panel that decides things. So Fleck today said he didn't have any part of those disciplines, and he has no say in positive tests.
But no one you spoke with before this report said that they were they received benefit by the Fleck Bank.
No.
Okay.
No, there was there was players who there's a couple players who were high up in the Fleck Bank, and then as well, but they didn't take advantage of it. I would say that's the best way to put it.
Okay. This is thorough. Yeah. And you've always been that way, AJ. We appreciate the detail and the perspective. And I love the fact you show up to Big Ten Media Days right there with PJ Fleck.
I mean,
I'm
not going to go any. I mean, it's my story.
Well, good
my
luck.
face is on it. So.
Good luck with your new Dan Snyder reporting. You get rid of that saga, and seems like this will be going on for a while.
We'll look forward to reading whatever is next in this. Thank you.
Yeah, no offense to Indy, but I'd rather be in the Mediterranean trying to chase down this yacht right now. So.
Fair enough. Hey, good to see you. AJ Perez there.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Sports, senior reporter, does a great job. And the details within this again, I think it's important. All the players are from the same class, 2017 to 2021. And some were starters. All were scholarship players. And, PJ Fleck is saying one thing.
It's a long read, but it's worth your time.
Yeah.
If you're sifting through it, I mean, just go learn for yourself what's being reported.
Yeah, and what's toxic, what's not.
Yeah.
Right? You can determine that.
And then
too.
you can decide for yourself.
Dr. David Chow joins us next. The latest on Joe Burrow's injury.
Two biggest social media giants, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, are set to battle it out, and I'm here on Broadway asking people who they put their money on. Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk? They're going to fight each other. Who do you think's going to win?
I think Mark's got him.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Because he's a man.
Okay, and Elon Musk isn't?
Oh, well, of course, he's got money.
Okay.
He's got money. Money, well, money's money.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg in a fight?
I don't know. I'm going to go with Musk.
Why?
He just seems like he's a little bit younger, a little bit smarter.
You just got a good feeling about him?
I got a good feeling.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Musk.
Why?
He trains. That guy's going to beat his
But Mark Zuckerberg is actually training jiu-jitsu for 9 months.
Not happening. Not Elon Musk all day. Elon Musk.
Why do you think?
He has no soul. I mean, I think he's definitely just going to no holds barred.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. I feel like he's stronger and smarter.
Oh, Elon Musk.
All the way? Why?
All the way. He's an animal. Think about it.
Mark Zuckerberg's been training for 9 months jiu-jitsu. You think Elon Musk can take him?
Yeah, I think he can take him.
Elon, that oh God, stop playing with Elon. Elon really do this out here, for real.
I hope Elon
Really? Why do you think so?
got better ideas.
Zuckerberg's like 5'7", 155. Musk is 6'1", 190. But Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, who's going to win in a fight?
Oh, Elon Musk. No doubt.
Why do you think so?
He's the GOAT. I've been seeing all the Twitter handles and all the talk, and I'm on Elon Musk's side. I'm ready for them to get in the WWE ring and then come off the top rope. That's what I want to see. I want to see a people's elbow to Mark Zuckerberg.
If one was more likely to be a lizard or a robot, who would it be?
Elon. Elon.
Okay.
I think Mark Zuckerberg will win.
Why do you think that?
Because I think he already trains MMA. So he's got like the prior experience and stuff. I mean, they're both billionaires, so they have the opportunity to get the best training. But I think Mark Zuckerberg will pull away with the win.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think so?
Because he's bigger.
Bigger, okay, but Mark Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Do you think that matters?
No.
Zuckerberg, he's part alien or robot, so he may have some secret powers that we don't know about.
I was going to say, is that an advantage? Does he have an advantage over Elon Musk then?
Yeah, I mean, if he, sheds his skin and becomes an alien and eats everyone, yeah, I think so.
Elon Musk is mental, so Elon Musk.
All it is just he's mental. He's mentally crazy, so.
He just wouldn't care, would he?
Okay.
He'd just absolutely go for it. I think Zuckerberg would be a bit more refrained.
Okay.
If that should ever happen, which I doubt, but you never know, it'd be entertaining.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Elon Musk.
Why?
Because
Elon
my
Musk.
dad is in love with Elon Musk.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have to go with Zuckerberg. I mean, Threads just came out, so.
Who do you think would win?
Zuck.
Why do you think so?
Because he's not a real human. He's a robot.
So he'll use that to his advantage.
Yeah, and all the Krav Maga stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think would win in a fight, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk?
Elon Musk.
Why do you think Elon Musk?
I think Elon's
He
smarter.
works with robots, so maybe he built a robot to fight for him.
But what if Mark Zuckerberg is a robot?
Oh wow. Then I might have to change my answer.
Who do you think is going to win?
Me.
Glad you're with us. We are live from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Coming up momentarily here on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow, Pro Football Doc. Dr. David Chow will be with us, and he'll give his assessment of what he's seen from the practice video of Joe Burrow going down with an apparent calf injury and needing to be carted off. Zach Taylor, the head coach, confirming it's a calf injury. No details, though, on the timetable for this. And Dr. Chow will know, former team physician for the Chargers, and he'll know the timetable and what generally happens in this recovery.
Hutton, can I confess something right now?
Sure.
It would appear, if I stood up at this point, that I peed all over the front of my pants, but I can assure you that I did not. I was just in the bathroom, and I'm washing my hands, and as I'm washing my hands, a spider, which I guess there was like a web in front of me, and I was trying to dance away from this spider as I'm washing my hands and proceeded to just sling water all over my lower leg on my pant. So it appears that I just walked right into the bathroom and just peed right down my leg.
You hit it well.
And then walked back in. But I promise you, it was me fighting off a spider.
I trust you.
With wet hands. And I washed my hands. I just wanted that clear for when I stand up in the next segment and you look at me and you say, if peeing your pants is cool, then consider me Miles Davis. Yeah, I promise I didn't pee my pants. Just wanted that out there. Just before there could be real embarrassment.
Well, there was the faucet in there where you turned it on, and it just went everywhere because it was.
That's happened before too.
Yeah, that's always pick the last one of the four.
Yeah, there's
sinks.
One faucet that you can't physically get your lower body far enough away.
Yes.
When washing your hands to not splatter all over your pants.
Chad, it is official through Colorado. Brett McMurphy has talked with Colorado President Todd Salomon. Quote, "We think it's time to change conferences. The Buffaloes will return to the Big 12 in 2024. The meeting is complete. It was a foregone conclusion after the Big 12 voted last night through the presidents and chancellors, unanimous invite, and they welcome Colorado's application. So now who's next? We'll discuss that coming up. What's next in a injury recovery that happened today for Joe Burrow? Went down with a calf injury, had to be carted off the practice field as the Bengals were going through so what looked like team drills where Burrow's rolling out to his right and goes down quickly after hopping on his right leg only. Dr. David Chow joins us, Pro Football Doc, back with us on OutKick. And always enjoy your perspective, Doctor. And from the video that surfaced right after practice and knowing that Zach Taylor confirmed the issue, which is a calf injury, what do you see in the video and what do you think Burrow's in for right now in terms of recovery?
Yeah, and it's just video, but I'm glad that our staff at Sports Injury Central was on it. They texted me the video and I broke out from patients and we beat Zach Taylor to the calf thing. So, but as long as it's not Achilles, the key is it's not Achilles. We got good video. as long as it's not Achilles, that's good news. And you're showing the video now, and I saw all the worry about Achilles. It is on his right side, which is different than his left knee ACL. As he rolls out here, you see he pulls up. The other thing that's significant here is that this is why teams are pretty cautious sometimes in training camp. I mean, Joe Burrow clearly had a pre-existing calf issue of some sort because he's got that sleeve on his right calf, right? So he might have felt something early, thought it was a cramp or tried to go through it a little bit, and now it has gotten a little bit worse. The good news is, as long as it's not Achilles, it's all happiness because no surgery and he's going to get better. The bad news is it does tend to linger a little bit. But Joe Burrow has not needed to practice at all. There was in preseason, right? In terms of his career in the NFL, COVID stuff, no practice. Torn ACL, very little training camp practice. Last year, appendicitis, very little training camp practice. And now this year here, he's obviously got the calf issue. He's going to miss a fair amount of practice time here. And, but I don't see how he's not ready for week one. Is he going to be as mobile as he normally would be? No, but he can have pocket mobility. And I don't see how he's not there week one. So that's the good news.
Zach Taylor said today, Dr. David Chow with us, that the sleeve was on his leg, on his right leg, his right calf, because he came in, they were doing something, I don't know if it was a walkthrough this morning or something, and he was saying his calf was tight and sore, I believe it was, and that's presumed to be from day one of camp. I don't know how, how that would happen whenever you were with the Chargers. Is that typical for guys to be that sore after day one? And would you expect a guy to just put a sleeve on and continue to practice if that were the issue?
Look, I know the medical staff of the Bengals. I make zero criticisms. Their head athletic trainer, who's new, is great. He's been there a little bit now.
And
I'm not
you're right.
doubting.
They've done a great job in some big moments in recent years with severe issues on the field during games. So you're right to mention this.
No question. And so I'm just pointing out that, look, it's very hard. If someone sat every time they were a little sore from a niggly something, you wouldn't have anybody out. So NFL sports medicine is driving an Indy car, a race car. Anyone can go 200 plus miles an hour in a straightaway. Anyone can get through a turn. The key is to know when the straightaway is ending and slow down and be careful, and when the turn is ending, so you have to accelerate out of it. That's how you get good NFL sports medicine. So it is tricky and dicey. It's easy to look back. The bottom line is this is the time of year for muscle injuries, muscle soreness, okay? In terms of acclimation injuries, hamstrings, quads, calf issues, etc. So it's not necessarily surprising. And by the way, I'm sorry that my computer didn't work and I'm holding the cell phone camera. It's kind of in a mirror the way I'm holding it. And I promise you, with surgery, my hands are steadier.
Well, you sound great. You look great. No concerns at all with that. So you mentioned, doctor, no surgery with something like this, but it does linger at times. Can you give us, just from your experience, what you've seen with a calf strain or calf pull, calf injury? Best case scenario, worst case scenario in a case like this?
First of all, the word strain does mean tear, partial tear. Not the calf muscle is torn. If you look at it with an MRI, look at it with a microscope, there is tearing. It's not torn in two pieces. There's no surgery to be done, but it is tearing and it does need to heal. And it's going to be likely what we call medial gastroc. Medial gastroc is the inside of the calf, the bigger part of the muscle. And it does linger. If you go back a few years, Aaron Rodgers, late in the season had a calf strain, and we were saying it's going to linger. And you saw him not running as it came to the playoffs and otherwise. The good news is it shouldn't affect Joe Burrow very much from the pocket. Yes, it's his plant leg, but by week one, I think he's going to be fine. It may affect him a little bit. He may be a little more careful in running out of the pocket, but that's not what he's going to be paid a gazillion dollars to do. And like I said, not the worst thing for Joe Burrow to miss training camp. He's done very well missing training camp before.
Dr. David Chow has been our guest. Pro Football Doc is where you can find him on social. Final thing, have you seen any video surface of Jalen Ramsey going down at practice earlier today with the Dolphins? We do know it's a knee issue.
Oh.
We don't know the severity of it.
I have not seen live video of that. We have seen the reports of rolled up on. And by the way, let's not make a lot out of Joe Burrow being carted off or Jalen Ramsey or Garrett Wilson for that matter. In training camps, most teams that are different things are not at their normal practice facility with the training room next to the field. The cart off is more of convenience because the medical facility is further away in training camp typically. It's not the regular season practice field. So let's not get too crazy with it. And the other one that we didn't cover is Garrett Wilson. That seems to be a mild or grade 1, 2, grade 2 likely inversion ankle sprain, not high ankle. So, so far, 2 of the 3, not the worst news in the world. Of course, Joe Burrow is going to miss a considerable amount of training camp, but at least it's not surgical. His season is not over, and he'll be ready week 1.
It looked, it did not look good. A lot of these tend to go 50-50 on what looks good versus when your quarterback goes down, it's awful. But man, that would have been a shockwave with Burrow about to sign a massive extension, the most we've seen among quarterbacks in the league or any player in the league to this point. Doc, thank you for the perspective as always, especially on short notice. And we will no doubt be catching up with you soon as we're just cranking up in the NFL with camp. There will be other injuries.
Yeah. And the other thing I say, yeah, NFL season is definitely started. The other thing that might not be the worst news for the Bengals, I mean, I know this is a scare, but maybe instead of worrying about it, I mean, this will get Joe Burrow's long-term deal done in his financial security because he doesn't want the next time, you know, right? I mean, that's what it's all about in the end. He's going to get a massive contract. I mean, you know, what's a few $1 million when you're talking about $250+ million, right? I mean, you and I take it. I'd take the few million and hold out, but look, your life's not going to change with that amount of money waiting for a few $1 million more on a contract. So maybe it's a good thing in the end.
Appreciate you. As always, we'll catch up.
Thank you.
At Pro Football Doc, he is Dr. David Chow. Does a great job with all of the coverage and the analysis from the injuries that take place. He looks at it, assesses it. He's got a great team as well. Behind the scenes that get it done on days like this.
Well, great resource for us to have on the show and bring on the show. Great Twitter follow also, because I'm constantly learning things about injury with what he sees just on video with different injuries. It's really good.
Chad, some notable NFL quarterbacks were asked about quarterback on Netflix. And it was just, across the league as camps open, first media availability with some of these players. As they're watching quarterback, and they're also discussing the players that will be doing this next year. We brought this up yesterday, but the players who turned it down, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, Ryan Tannehill said that he turned it down for season 1, that he had the option to do that. I'm sure there are others, but the ones that are on the show right now with Mahomes, who is crushing it, Kirk Cousins and Marcus Mariota. And then there is a great list for season 2, which has already been announced.
Well, it's the state of New York. It's Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, and Josh Allen, all the quarterbacks in the state of New York for season 2. Season 1 was terrific. Finished it last night. Those 3 quarterbacks, you're going to leave liking all of them, I think, a little bit more. Maybe some debate on Mariota with how things ended with him when he was benched, but all in all, the behind-the-scenes stuff is terrific and gives you a great snapshot of them. I do not blame Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, or Justin Fields for turning this down. Those guys had a lot to prove last year and coming into this next year. I'll also say this about Jalen Hurts. If he's anything like what we saw in the build-up to the Super Bowl and what we've seen from him in interviews, he's not going to be very entertaining on this quarterback series. That's not a knock on Jalen Hurts. He's a lot of what you would want in a quarterback. He's very boring. Patrick Mahomes has a conversation with him where Patrick Mahomes speaks 98% of the time to Jalen Hurts on the media night of the Super Bowl this last year. in an episode of the show. So I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to say a lot if he's on this series. So probably a good move for him to turn it down. And Justin Fields, Tua, ton to prove. I'd understand the turning it down. Ryan Tannehill probably wanted to do it and probably went to Mike Vrabel knowing him and talked about it. And Mike Vrabel, while not just saying absolutely not, probably said, yeah, I don't know that we need to do that. I don't know that's something that we're all about here with this team and with my team. So I can kind of see it with all of those guys. I'm pumped for season 2 with the access they get. This is not you can tell watching it. This is not we had a camera in every moment, every day, every meeting. This is we're going to come through 5 or 6 of the weeks out of the year. We're going to get great NFL films footage on the sideline. You're going to be mic'd up every game. We're going to go through that and take highlights in games with you mic'd up. We're going to have an end-of-the-year interview that's going to last a long time that you can tell they shot the same interview about every game in the same outfit of both the wives and the players at the end of the year. But the way they thread this thing together and the quilt that it forms is very, very well done. It's not earth-shattering, but the way it's produced is great, and you do get a look behind the scenes at some things. Some of them I'm surprised they showed. Some of the things I'm surprised they got into, but you get good footage of it. Highly recommend. Season 2 will be great.
Never surprised when Jim Irsay decides to speak honestly and is just forthright. He normally does this on Twitter, which he's done yet again, where he called the running back talk and call for a new CBA revamp for the position inappropriate. He's got a running back that's in the last year of his deal. That's next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted
he bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of a Southern legend.
Hot Mike with Hutton Withrow. Been a fast-paced show, Chad.
We just had an excellent suggestion in the YouTube chat. By the way, if you're in that YouTube chat, we don't have near enough likes today. Smash that like button.
Pound it.
Subscribe.
Pound it.
Share it. Smash it. Do all the things to it. Everything you can, do it to that like button. Royce in the YouTube chat, I think it was Royce. Let me make sure I'm crediting the right YouTuber. Asked if you could have 3 quarterbacks throughout history, any era, any decade, you could pick the year and follow them in this dream world on the quarterback series on Netflix. Which 3? I went with the nightlife trio of Joe Namath, Jim McMahon, Ken Stabler. But now that I think about it, I'd like to mix in more history with it. So this is something we're going to revisit tomorrow.
Yeah, I've got 2 that automatically come to mind for the entertainment.
Well, Colin over here even said Jim McMahon. We shared one of the same ones in the thread. So we'll all come up with 3 solid ones. Maybe I might just go different eras with each one and different style for each one, so I don't get too much. See, that would be too much of a bad thing. Like Joe Namath, Stabler, McMahon to me would be like that would be 2 HBO late night series. Right? Like, I need a little bit of everything. Like, give me a little bit of sex and intrigue. Give me a little bit of mystery with someone that we don't know a lot about.
Emmanuel, Queen of the Galaxy.
Yes,
you need a little Sherlock Holmes. And what else?
Rochelle, as they wrote Seinfeld. Erotic journey from Milan to Minsk. But then, just 3 different types. Well, I need to find the right 3-pack of different styles, attitudes, mystery, era, team to focus on. This could take a little. This is going to be a little brainstorming.
It's going to be good
for us to come up with the right 3. It's a great question from Royce.
Chad, Jim Irsay, you never know what he's going to do or what he's going to say, and he certainly has said plenty throughout the last few NFL owners meetings about Daniel Snyder, and yesterday, tweeted this out yesterday evening in regards to the Zoom call that took place this past weekend where NFL running backs got together, a handful of them, and because of, was it not, I believe it Najee Harris gave a peek behind the scenes of the questions that were asked, the tone, the tenor of the Zoom. And one of the things that he pointed out was they had NFLPA reps on discussing going back to the drawing board and changing the franchise tag, not by position, but as a whole. If you tag a player, you're getting this amount. All of the top spots in the league right now, minimum is $18 million on the tag. Wide receiver, quarterback, and it's not always 18. The lowest is 18. Wide receiver, quarterback, defensive end, corner. There are others. The running backs are second to last on the tier at $10.1 million, second only to kickers and punters. at $5 million on the franchise tag. They wanted to go back to the drawing board. Jim Irsay, who's on the finance committee among the NFL owners, tweeted this out. NFL running back situation. We have negotiated a CBA that took years of effort and hard work and compromise in good faith by both sides. To say now that a specific player category wants another negotiation after the fact is inappropriate. Some agents are selling bad faith. Jonathan Taylor's agent responded to this and said the only bad faith happening here is not paying your best offensive weapon on your team. Jonathan Taylor was, according to those in the meeting, there was one player, it may have been Harris, it could have been another, it may have been Chubb, but I know it was quoted. Jonathan Taylor was visibly upset. Like you could tell on his face, he was pissed off in this meeting. He's going into the last year of his contract, and he is tried to spur on talks for an extension. He hasn't been as vocal as what we've seen with Saquon Barkley or what we're seeing currently with Josh Jacobs. By the way, Josh Jacobs reportedly was offered a long-term extension with the Raiders of an average of $12 million per year and has turned that down. He left Vegas. He's holding out. He's not there. Holding out. He's not there. He's not under contract. He hasn't signed the franchise tag. Saquon Barkley, of course, just got a one-year, $11 million upgrade on the tag this past week. Taylor, though, I want to just read between the lines here a bit. He missed 5 or 6 games last year with an ankle injury, and he had ankle surgery back in January. He should be ready to go. In fact, he told reporters early in the offseason that he would be healthy and ready. He just started training camp on the physically unable to perform list. Now, this could be just something else that popped up and needs something, some more time to rehab, what have you. But the reporters with boots on the ground in Indy are saying this was a bit of a surprise that he showed up to camp and he's on PUP. This could be more or less him showing up and not feeling right. And he's not feeling right for multiple reasons, not just the ankle. Again, we've seen players be disgruntled. They show up, they don't go to practice, but they're not on PUP. In this case, he's got to be upset because we know he was upset on the Zoom call. And now his owner is saying, you're asking for more after we've just collectively bargained this and your Players Association agreed to it? That's inappropriate. That's not in good faith. So he's got to know now. I mean, nothing's going to happen here other than he's in the final year of his deal. And guess what? If he's great, he'll get the franchise tag. It's rent, not buy at the position.
Are you saying this PUP could be more of an FU from Jonathan Taylor?
Potentially.
To the Colts and faking an injury?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, he didn't fake he did have off-season surgery, but based on the timetable, he should be back by camp. So we'll check in further on that whenever he's removed from it.
I don't always love the phrase, it is what it is. And I know that some have said that about this situation. And I believe those people who say that. This is one of the few times where right now this is what it is. What Jim Irsay said is 1,000% correct. Mm-hmm. It would be completely inappropriate for a collective bargaining agreement that was duly negotiated by both sides that took a ton of time, where both sides were forced to make concessions, to now tear that up and go back and say, oh, this position group feels aggrieved, we need to change it all for them. Of course that's inappropriate to do that. He's not wrong in saying that, but the running backs also are not wrong in feeling slighted right now based on the direction of everything and the way teams value them or don't value them. Both sides have a good point. There are some times where both sides are sort of right, but there's really nothing to do. I don't blame the owners or Irsay or anyone else saying, yeah, we're not going to go back and renegotiate a CBA because this one position is unhappy. And if you're the running backs, you're saying, well, great, value us the way we should be valued for our teams. And that's not going to happen because, quite frankly, it's not good business for the teams to do right now.
The NFL owners hold the power over the NFLPA.
Yep.
They're not going to set a precedent of this.
It's also
and they know that. That's why Saquon did the deal.
This is the privilege of owning the team and not working for the team. That's just the fact of life. There's different rules for the owners as opposed to the players, the coaches, everyone else. It's always going to be that way. It's not equal.
There's a NFL running back who's totally happy on the franchise tag. We'll hit tomorrow. Chad, I'm going to go rapid fire here with two big stories. So,
hey, real quick, Ohtani today?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting into here.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, go.
The Angels doubleheader. You pointed out he had a one-hitter going in the eighth.
Yeah.
He threw a complete game shutout, 1 hit, 8 strikeouts in the first game. He then hit his league-leading 37th and 38th homer in the second game of a doubleheader. And Ohtani, after the Angels report got out yesterday that they don't plan on trading him, they're not going to at the deadline on August 1st, Ohtani does what Ohtani does. And if you want to have a chance at re-signing him, if the Angels feel like they do, maybe they've heard something that they're in the mix, you got to win. Ohtani said that at the All-Star break. But if they don't re-sign him, Chad, to reiterate your point on how this would look optically in the annals of history of Major League Baseball.
I really wish, by the way, Twitter didn't currently suck right now because I could find a tweet quicker that was amazing that illustrated Ohtani's day. I think it's the first time this has happened since like 1896 that someone has thrown that many strikeouts and pitched a complete game and had 2 home runs.
It's the story of his career.
On the same day.
Man.
And it's happened in a doubleheader, but on the same day. Pretty remarkable stat if I could find it. The Angels will look like one of the dumbest teams in the history of pro sports if they don't go to the playoffs or re-sign Ohtani. It's really that simple. They are gambling big time right now. They're not getting someone's haul of prospects to revamp that team. They haven't been to the playoffs with both Trout and Ohtani on the team. So they're taking a chance now, 4.5 games out of the last wild card spot, to make a run. Trout's going to come back mid-August, so a couple weeks from now at best. They're going to make a run in August and September to get a playoff spot and to go on a run in the playoffs. If they do that, they could easily sell, hey, keeping Ohtani paid off. It worked. But if they do this, they don't get the return in the trade, and they don't make the playoffs, and they fail to re-sign Ohtani in the offseason, what did they get out of this? I mean, we're going to look back and say, you had 2 surefire Hall of Famers there and could not go to the playoffs. Oh, and when you had a chance to get your next legacy of your next generation of players that could go to the playoffs regularly, you didn't. You failed to do that, and you missed the playoffs. I mean, I think, look, it's a huge risk. That's what sports and life are all about sometimes. But if this risk doesn't pay off, there's not going to be second guessing. It's going to be first guessing of the Angels.
Chad, tomorrow we'll speak with Brett McMurphy, who tweets this out from the Action Network. Big 12 will add between 1 and 3 schools to join Colorado in 2024. I'm jumping in here now. The news today, Colorado said, yes, we're out. Peace out to the Pac-12. We're going to apply for the ability to join the Big 12, which has already let it be known that they've approved the Colorado Buffaloes program if they wanted to apply for membership. Back to McMurphy. The league will first seek others from Pac-12 to join. If none do so, Big 12 would add 1 group of 5, UConn, Memphis, San Diego State, or UNLV, to reach even numbers of teams in 2024. Now, and again, Brett McMurphy joins us tomorrow. The Athletic is reporting that Brett Yormark, the new commissioner of the Big 12, has done a tremendous job here. You want to see leadership that is there but not in the Pac-12. It's this guy. He is going all in to sell his conference membership schools on UConn. That's number 1 priority. He wants UConn a part of the Big 12. And from there, again, that's the Athletic. And then if you pick up on what Brett McMurphy is reporting, they're going to start with other Pac-12 schools to join. 1 to 3 more schools is important here, though. because you can still get 2 Pac-12 schools, and then if he's able to sell UConn, he can. Yeah, I'm fascinated by why. So UConn would be choosing to join the landscape in the Power 5.
We've only got about 45 seconds left, so I'll be quick and simple with this. If UConn is who he seeks, he is seeking the wrong Huskies.
You want Washington?
I want Oregon and Washington as two of them.
Could be, though.
No, that's who's going to go first. But I'm saying that UConn, I don't like it. I don't like it for UConn. I don't like it for the Big 12. UConn is a basketball school that makes better sense to play in the Northeast against those rivals, and they just won a national title. They built back into a national power in basketball. It makes no sense for either side. Now, if I'm Memphis, San Diego State, or UNLV, I am on my knees every night praying those Pac-12 schools turn them down so it falls to me.
And meanwhile,
I want them to fall to me.
Has the Pac-12 shown the numbers yet of the TV rights still 24 hours later?
Show me the money.
Maybe
Show
by
me the
tomorrow
money.
when we start at 3 o'clock Eastern.